Chapter 25-28. Snoke's expression was ugly from the words. In the outside world, he was also a respected person, but here, he was criticized to the point that he couldn't say anything to refute. Controlling a universe country. Was Snoke envious? He was very envious. He had always been envious of Wan Yan's family, because her family had always only had one heir. Simply put, it was a single heir. This meant that from the moment she was born, she didn't have to worry about anyone fighting with her for the family's legacy. Now that Wan Yan was born less than 1,000 years ago, she already had a universe country under her family's control, and even the position of ruler was passed to her. Snoke, who had been fighting within his family since he was young, was extremely jealous. He lived cautiously. To increase his chances of inheriting the family's position, he had never made any mistakes. Whatever he said, whatever he did, he would carefully consider everything before he spoke and did it when the time came. He would calculate all the pros and cons. He wanted all the results to be beneficial to him and to improve. Since Sister Wan Yan has spoken to this extent, then what else can I say? Snoke smiled and shook his head. But I don't think I'm wrong. No one says you're wrong, don't deny yourself. The people standing here were all childhood friends. Wan Yan's words just now didn't leave any face, but she didn't purposely argue with Snoke to the point of breaking all pretenses. The two of them might just have a clash of ideals. That was actually acceptable. Even within the family, as the judge, she would have some differences of opinion with the elders of the family, much less between friends. I'm not targeting you, Snoke. Wan Yan looked at Snoke's expression and shook her head. I'm purely against the Tsangyu galaxy. No matter how strong their galaxy is, she's a traitor, that's undeniable. Traitor to the Milky Way Master? Snoke laughed. Isn't that so? Wan Yan frowned. Do you understand the history of the Tsangyu galaxy? The Tsangyu galaxy was so close to being invaded by the invaders. It was the Milky Way Master who saved them, and the strongest in their galaxy, Tsangyu, became the Milky Way Master's most capable subordinate. How did the Milky Way Master treat him? Everyone in the universe knows about it, but what did he do after that? Sister Wan Yan, I didn't expect you to be such an ignorant person. In the face of Wan Yan's slander of Tsangyu, Snoke's eyes were full of mockery and playfulness. To think that I saw you as a female hero. I didn't expect that I was wrong. Ha ha, I was wrong about you. Snooker's incomprehensible words. This caused the surrounding people to frown. What he didn't know was that Snooker also couldn't hold back for a while. He was so angry that he laughed. In Planet Yin's family clans, Snoke had a different opinion of each clan's descendant. From his family background to his personal strength, and then to his personality. A long time ago, Wan Yan was an ambitious and ruthless person in his heart. Whether it was her family, her conduct, her brilliant methods, or her inner decisiveness, all of these made Snoke feel that she was someone worth befriending in the future. She was also the only one who he truly felt that he could befriend. For example, the flame rat, Meng Luo, and the others only came into contact with them occasionally because of their powerful family background. Otherwise, how could these fellows who had no experience at all and had been living in a safe haven catch his eye? Unfortunately, when Wan Yan said those words, Snooker laughed at his own blindness. He had actually regarded an idiot as an ambitious and ruthless person. Wan Yan, what you said just now was too ridiculous. Do you know that the winner takes all? Snooker stood in the middle of the crowd and looked at the others with disdain. Do you also think that Tsangyu is a treacherous person? Everyone silently looked at Snooker's face. Among these people, Hua Jianrou was the most affected. At this moment, she felt that Snooker was somewhat unfamiliar. Or, could this be the most authentic Snooker? The Snooker before her wasn't the person she knew at all. He was gentle, kind, humble, and polite. Now, he seemed to have gone crazy. Let me tell you, you're all wrong. Snooker's eyes were filled with admiration. Star-Lord Songyu is the true ambitious and ruthless person. He was willing to swallow humiliation and humbly endure under the Master of the Galaxy for tens of thousands of years to strengthen his own power bit by bit. When the opportunity came, he didn't hesitate to seize it. Such decisiveness and forbearance. In your eyes, he's actually a traitor. Is this what you really think? Wan Yin said. What else? Snooker shrugged. At this time, I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. Because of this stupid decision that you're about to make, I have to tell you everything. I can't control my family, but I won't bury everything that I've painstakingly obtained with you. If you really want to be on good terms with the Virtual World Corporation, then I will declare my position to the public. I'm sorry, but I need to protect myself. I see. Wan Yin nodded silently and revealed a smile. If that's the case, then we're no longer just doing this by you. We're declaring our own positions. This is good too. We can make it clear in advance so that when the war really starts, we won't get into a deadlock because of our different positions. Why don't we all express here? If the war really starts, who do you support? Make it clear so that we can interact with each other in the future. With that, Wan Yin raised her hand. I represent my family and support the Virtual World Corporation. I'm in. Flame Rat was the first to stand up. My family is indebted to the Master of the Galaxy. My elders have long said that if the war starts, the entire family will join the Virtual World Corporation's battle group. I don't represent the family. I personally like the Master of the Galaxy. Meng Luo hesitated for a moment before speaking. I don't like Star-Lord Songyu at all. He's a bad person. Blonde Yorong pursed her lips. I might be more inclined to Star-Lord Songyu. Our family and... Don't explain. Wan Yin interrupted Yorong. There's no need to explain at this time. But Yorong, I think you're more suited for snooker. Why isn't it you who's engaged to him, but Hua Jianro? Little Hua, who do you support? Me? Hua Jianro glanced at Snooker and Yorong. I support justice. Chapter 25-29. Actually, there really isn't a need to do this. As Hua Jianro finished speaking, she silently looked up at Snoke and Yorong for a long time. If there really is a need for positions, when the time comes, it will be the elders of our family that make the decision. Sister Wan Yin, including you, even if you are ruling your family's universe country now, if it is a matter of life and death, it will be the elders of your family that make the decisions. Actually, it's too childish to say all this here. Even though the people standing here could all be the ones who would rule their families in the future. If there were no accidents, when they grew to a certain stage, the position of the family head would definitely fall into their hands. People like Hua Jianro, who were more mature, actually knew why so many families had so many heirs. However, it was these people who grew up together. Perhaps the goal was for them to interact and get to know each other. When they inherited the family's position, they would still be able to maintain a harmonious relationship like the elders. This would ensure the stability and development of the family. Any family that could have such a situation today. They all relied on the hard work of countless ancestors. Take Hua Jianro's family as an example. Her family had been around for millions of years. Relying on the stability of the human race, the protection of the experts within the family, and the alliance with other families, the family's life gradually stabilized. The experts within the family were also born in a benign manner. Today, in Hua Jianro's clan, there were 6 chiefs, 17 supremacies, and countless kings, and dukes. One had to know, those overlords, kings, and titled experts weren't just the direct descendants of the family. There were collateral relatives, guests, and invitations from the family. Behind any expert was the influence of the family. Behind these families, there were even smaller families. It was like a big tree had many branches, and the branches had many small branches. There were leaves on the branches, and there were many leaf patterns on the leaves. This was the full scale of a big family. There were too many things involved in this matter. Even if Hua Jianrou and the others really became the family head, something like this that affected the entire family's life and death would require countless discussions with the elders of the family. Furthermore, they hadn't even inherited the position yet. Standing for the family now was too childish. You only know how to talk. Wang Yan pursed her lips. I was just asking a few questions just now, and let everyone express their opinions. You know, those meaningless and useless social interactions have long been over with us. Isn't it good to take advantage of this opportunity? I agree with that. Hua Jianrou nodded her head gently. She subconsciously glanced at Snooker and Yorong. For some reason, Hua Jianrou's eyes were filled with heartache. Ruru, why are you looking at me? Snooker frowned. What's wrong? Can't I even look at you? Hua Jianrou pursed her lips and smiled faintly. This smile made Snooker a little flustered. For some reason, he had a bad feeling in his heart, and this feeling was getting stronger and stronger. In our circle, as we grow older and more experienced, we should indeed give up on some meaningless social interactions. Hua Jianrou shrugged. Through your perverts, I have a rough idea. Yorong, Bill, and Snooker, it's best if we don't contact each other as much as possible in the future. Xiao. The golden-haired Yorong froze for a moment, her eyes filled with panic. I was just sharing my thoughts. I think Snooker's thoughts are right. Is that so? Inexplicably, Hua Jianrou's eyes darkened. From her eyes, one could feel a trace of coldness that made people tremble. Yorong, I've always regarded you as my best friend. It was I who brought you into our circle. Think about it yourself. With your family background, do you deserve to know people like us? Is Sister Hua. The flame rat didn't expect Hua Jianrou to say something so serious. Their circle was indeed made up of the descendants of sovereigns and overlords. Furthermore, there were many sovereigns and overlords in their families. Yorong's family only had one monarch. They were a little weaker than them, but they had played together for so long. Saying this now was somewhat hurtful. One must know how to repay kindness. Yorong, am I not good to you? The golden-haired beauty was speechless. All she could do was silently lower her head and grasp the corner of her clothes tightly without retorting. Jianrou, your words are a little too serious. Snooker walked up with a frown and grabbed Hua Jianrou's hand. I might have been a little extreme just now, but as Sister Wan Yen said, we are just expressing our own opinions. Let go. Hua Jianrou squinted and looked at Snooker's palm. Don't touch me. Is it disgusting? Hua Jianrou pulled her hand out forcefully. She looked at Snooker and Yorong, who couldn't help but nod. I don't want to be too direct with some words. I'm giving you face. Don't worry, Snooker. I won't cancel our engagement, at least not before you inherit the position of clan leader. For the sake of our many years of friendship, I'll let you use me to get to the position of clan leader. Of course, that's it. Once you become clan leader, we'll cancel our engagement. After that, you don't have to be sneaky anymore. In an instant, everyone's pupils constricted. Wan Yen and Flame Rat looked at Hua Jianrou and the rest in confusion. They roughly understood what Hua Jianrou meant from her words just now. Only Meng Luo's eyes were blank. Her reaction, especially in this aspect, had always been much slower than the others. Jianrou, it's not what you think. Snooker shook his head forcefully. We are. I don't blame you. Hua Jianrou grinned and smiled nonchalantly. I didn't say anything. Love is about being suitable. To be honest, Snooker, I accepted you because you coaxed and pestered me. I don't actually have deep feelings for you, so don't think that I'll do anything to you because of this. I said, I won't cancel our engagement before you become clan leader. Isn't this what you want? Jianrou. Shut up, your voice disgusts me. Suddenly, Hua Jianrou's face darkened. Don't make everyone look bad. Snooker, I actually knew it long ago, but I didn't say it. Do you understand? Chapter 25:30. What are you talking about? Snoke frowned and looked at Hua Jianrou, who had a playful look in her eyes, in an unfriendly manner. I said it very clearly. I came here with Yorong because I was talking about something at her house. Between the two of us. Do you remember last time at Bai Yu's house? Hua Jianro narrowed her eyes and smiled silently. Just this one sentence caused Snoke's gaze to change. His expression seemed to lose its previous firmness. He took a few steps forward, wanting to reach out and grab Hua Jianro, but she dodged his hand. Jianro, let's go back and talk. What are you afraid of? If you didn't do anything wrong, what are you afraid of? Snooker, are you afraid? Hua Jianro's eyes were filled with playfulness and mockery. What happened at Sister Bai Yu's house? Meng Luo was confused. The flame rat subconsciously pulled Meng Luo and shook its head at her. The situation seemed to have changed again. From Bai Yu's invitation to Sister Wan Yan's statement about the family's stance, to Hua Jianro and Snoke's tit-for-tat. Their purpose of coming here had already deviated from their original intentions. What's wrong? If you have a problem, you have to say it, right? Meng Luo's eyes were filled with innocence and confusion. Say it, Sister Xiao, just say what you want to say. I really want to know what happened between Snoke and Yorong. Jianro. Snoke exhaled. Okay, Meng Luo wants to know, then I'll say it. Hua Jianro didn't care about Snoke's reminder. Her eyes darted back and forth between Snoke and Yorong. Meng Luo, do you remember last time we had a gathering at Bai Yu's house? We left the room for a short while, and when we came back, you felt the smell in the room was a bit strange. I remember. Meng Luo nodded. Jianro. Say no more. Snoke yelled. Unexpectedly, before Hua Jianro could speak, Meng Luo squinted her eyes at Snoke. Why not? I really want to hear it. At that moment, Snoke felt a chill in his heart. He stared at Meng Luo. From her eyes, he felt a trace of abnormality. He had really misjudged her. He had mistakenly regarded Wan Yan as an ambitious and ruthless person, and he had also mistakenly regarded Meng Luo as a naive and innocent person who lived under the protection of her family. Actually, she understood everything and knew everything. She was using her innocence to hide her mature heart. Are you afraid that Sister Xiao will talk about what you did? Snooker, if you did nothing, what are you afraid of? And you, Wei Yorong, what did you do with Snooker? Can you speak for Sister Xiao? Meng Luo's eyes were still as innocent as ever. It was under this innocent appearance that hid the heart of an interesting demon. She stared straight at Wei Yorong. She was so ashamed that she couldn't even raise her head. Her hands were trembling, and she was so ashamed that even her breathing was shaky. You don't dare to say? Seems like this is a very bad thing. Meng Luo tilted her head innocently. Sister Xiao, what exactly did they do for there to be such a strange smell? Did they have an affair in the Dark Emperor? As soon as he finished speaking, Meng Luo covered her mouth in shock. No way, if Uncle Hua finds out about such a bad thing, Snooker will be beaten to death. Wei Yorong's family will probably be kicked out of Planet Een. Meng Luo. When Meng Luo finished speaking, Hua Jianro's eyes revealed a shocked expression. She hadn't expected Meng Luo to say such a thing. Sister Xiao, don't worry about this. You said that Snooker was good last time. How is he good compared to the future god? He's not even as good as a dog. Meng Luo shrugged in disdain. Meng Luo. Snooker shouted. What? Are you shouting at me? S.E. Snooker? Just at the moment when Meng Luo said Snooker for all, the look in Meng Luo's eyes finally changed drastically. That emotionless gaze. If Hua Jianro made him tremble, then Meng Luo's gaze seemed to push him into an abyss. I didn't. Snooker gulped. I thought you were yelling and throwing a tantrum because you thought that the rabbit race was easy to bully. Meng Luo pursed her lips. Of course, I'm not afraid at all if that's what you think. At most, I'll declare war. I'll issue a challenge to the Essie clan on behalf of my family. Do you dare to accept it? In an instant, The little lowly Meng Luo's figure enlarged infinitely. The domineering aura of a queen was released from her tiny body as she looked down on the world. Snooker subconsciously licked his lower lip. How dare he? Meng Luo was the youngest among them, and she was also the one who received the most care and love. Everyone treated her like their own younger sister and took care of her, but who could forget that she was the only direct descendant of the Rabbit God clan? When she was born, she possessed the royal bloodline. It was also because of her bloodline that her parents didn't give birth to any more lives. Everyone in the family, from the elders to the servants and guards, all treated her like the apple of their eyes. Direct descendant, collateral descendant, no one didn't smile at her. Her words were like words of wisdom. Just like that, if she went to some universe country, or if she was looking at the night view and felt that the stars made her feel unbalanced and uncomfortable, then that star would instantly disappear. Even if it was a universe country that had existed in the universe for billions of years, Meng Luo didn't like it. Even if it blocked her view, this universe country would disappear within half a day. This wasn't an exaggeration. Meng Luo's family did indeed have such power. Within the human race, there were guardian races, as well as countless beastmen. When Li's nine-tailed fox race had a high status within the human race. The fox race numbered in the trillions, but even so, they couldn't be considered the number one beastman race. It wasn't because of the Titan race or the other god-beast races. It was because of the existence of the rabbit race. When Li had 10 tails and was the leader of the fox race, and Meng Luo was the one Li of the rabbit race. She was the only rabbit god with the royal bloodline. She was the treasure of the entire rabbit race. Her every word and action affected all the decisions of the rabbit race. Usually, she just didn't want to, but if she did. Meng Luo. Don't call my name, Essie Snooker. Meng Luo squinted her eyes and pursed her lip. I'm actually not that close with you. If it wasn't for Sis Xiaoro and Bai Yu, you'd be worse than a dog in my eyes. Chapter 25-31. It was hard to imagine that such a poisonous tongue would come from the mouth of a cute lowly like Meng Luo. Snoke clenched his fists tightly. Meng Luo's words were like a handful of dry firewood being added to his chest, causing the anger in his chest to burn even more vigorously. However, no matter how much his anger burned, even if it burned his chest to the point where it hurt, he could only silently endure it. He couldn't say anything in rebuttal. Sorry. My words just now seem to be insulting dogs. I just feel so angry. Say. Sis Xiaoro is such a good person, yet you still want to cheat on her. And that way Yorong, you really don't disappoint me. From the first time I saw you, I knew you weren't a good person. A pure white hallway. This was originally Bai Yu's residence in the virtual world, but now it had become Meng Luo's home field. She squinted her eyes and looked back and forth between Snoke and Yorong. She didn't hide the disdain in her expression at all. Meng Luo stopped. Hua Jianro tugged at Meng Luo and shook her head. Let's just leave it at that. All right. Meng Luo didn't say anything else. She pointed at Snoke and Yorong and narrowed her eyes. I don't want to see the two of you on planet Een. What do you mean? Snoke immediately panicked. Everything he owned was built on planet Een. Now, Meng Luo actually didn't want to see them on planet Een. Was she trying to expel them? What right do you have to tell us to leave planet Een? Planet Een is a jointly managed life planet. No one has the right to expel the people here. Do you think I'm discussing this with you? Meng Luo tilted her head, her eyes smiling. Isis Snoke, I'm informing you here. If you still want to save some face, get out of here while it's still early. If you and that golden-haired woman want to never raise their heads again, I can send someone to your family to have a chat. You. Snoke clenched his fists and couldn't speak for a long time. He nodded forcefully. All right. As soon as he finished speaking, Snooker disappeared from the corridor. When he left, he didn't even look at Wei Yorong. Wei Yorong, who had been left behind, had eyes filled with terror. Jian Ro, Meng Luo, I. Shoo. Meng Luo put a finger to her lips. Don't explain it to us. Regardless of whether you were forced or not, it was all your own choice. If Sister Xiao didn't say anything, I could pretend that I didn't know anything. But since she chose to say it, then you should pay for your actions. I'll give you a week to prepare. If I still see you on planet Een after a week, then your family will disappear from this universe. Meng Luo. Get lost. There was no change in Meng Luo's eyes. At this moment, it was as if all the friendship between her and Wei Yorong had turned into ashes. There was no pity or pity. Even Wan Yen was shocked to see this kind of decisiveness. Wei Yorong also clenched her fists tightly. She had never imagined that everything would end up like this. Maybe she was wrong from the very beginning. She was a member of a second-tier family. She shouldn't have entered the circle of the top families. She had thought that she would be able to bring her family to the next level. She had wandered around the heirs of these big families, but in the end it was all for naught. Or perhaps she should have been loyal to Hua Jianro. If she hadn't been blinded by Snoke's threats and promises, she wouldn't have ended up like this. I'm sorry. Silently bowing to Hua Jianro and the rest, Wei Yorong bit her lip and left the hallway. Watching the two leave, Hua Jianro couldn't help but sigh. The feeling of being betrayed really wasn't a good one. In fact, to be honest, she didn't know that Snooker had an affair with Wei Yorong at all. The strange smell she mentioned was also deliberately said so to trick Snooker. If there was nothing wrong with the two of them, Snoke and Wei Yorong would naturally be very calm. Unfortunately, from the moment she started probing, the two of them had already lost their calmness. From that moment on, she was really disappointed. The most mysterious person here was Bill. He came here for no reason. After being invited by Yu, he didn't even say a word. Instead, he saw a bunch of childhood friends that he used to play with. Then, they all left mysteriously. Wan Yen quickly came back and said that she had news. Yu wanted to exterminate the human race. Bill didn't really care about this. He never really cared about this kind of thing. If some insignificant humans died, then so be it. Just such a small matter. Snooker had raised the issue of standing, and the people who had stayed behind had made their positions clear. But, fuck, I haven't said anything yet. It was as if his stance was insignificant. Don't mess around. Bill believed that his family was one of the best among the first-tier families in the human race. As the only direct descendant, did he have no sense of existence? Then, the relationship between Hua Jianro and Snoke mysteriously broke. If he remembered correctly, these two used to be lovey-dovey every day. Sure enough, lovey-dovey died quickly. Bill propped his chin on his hand and nodded. Then, he received another piece of important news. Wei Yorong and Snoke were having an affair. That was reasonable. In fact, he also had some crooked thoughts towards Wei Yorong. It was just that this woman was too sexy. Moreover, she was always in a state of rejecting and welcoming anyone, which made his heart itch. Luckily, he abided by his heart, and wasn't hooked by this woman. Actually, he wasn't saying this after the fact. Previously, he felt that Wei Yorong and Snoke's relationship wasn't right. But because they were friends, he couldn't say anything. Now that this matter was exposed, he wasn't surprised. Instead, he felt that it was natural. Of course. What shocked him the most was Meng Luo. This young lady had never seen this side of her. In short, Bill was dumbfounded at the beginning, but now, he was completely dumbfounded. From start to finish, he didn't say anything. He just stood there like an invisible person, watching these people's grudges. I really wish someone could control me. Even if they wanted me to scram. It was so awkward to stand here like this. Bill. Just as Bill was muttering to himself, Meng Luo suddenly glanced at him. Here. Bill nodded. This matter ends here. No one is allowed to say anything. I hope you can control your mouth. No problem. Can I leave now? Let's go. Meng Luo nodded. That's great. Bill's eyes revealed a smile. He extended his hand and gave Meng Luo a thumbs up. Meng Luo, you were so cool just now. I've decided to pursue you. Scram. Okay. Chapter 25-32. This Burr is probably an idiot. Seeing Burr leave the hallway, Meng Luo rolled her eyes speechlessly. Isn't he always like this? Wan Yen smiled and shrugged. He can be a hedonist, but he likes to be a bootlicker. Which of the girls in our group hasn't been pursued by him before? Sister Wan Yen was also pursued? Meng Luo raised her brows. He wrote me a love letter and got beaten up by my dad. Wan Yen smiled and nodded. Shortly after, she looked at Meng Luo playfully. Little Meng Luo, I couldn't tell that you hid it so deeply. No wonder Uncle and Auntie never worried about whether you could inherit the family. It seems like we were fooled by your cute appearance. No way. Meng Luo returned to her adorable self as she wrinkled her nose with a smile. I'm just a little angry. They bullied Sister Xiaoro like that. They're too bad. That's good too. Wan Yen didn't say anything else and rubbed Meng Luo's head. This way, we won't be targeted by other races. Currently, the internal situation of our human race is complicated enough. If we have an affair, it will be very troublesome. Internal situation of the human race. During this period of time, they had heard from their clansmen that the internal situation of the human race was complicated. Hua Jianro, Meng Luo, Flame Rat and the other elders of their families were all worried. Sister Wan Yen, what exactly is the problem? Our human race might really be having a civil war. Wan Yen hesitated for a while and didn't hide it. In her opinion, Meng Luo and the others would know about this sooner or later. Telling them in advance would give them a better idea. The conflict between the Virtual World Corporation and Songyue Galaxy is getting more and more serious. Right now, all the major families are considering the issue of their teams. My family is the same. Are we really going to fight? Hua Jianro frowned. 90%. Wan Yen muttered to herself for a while before saying, we definitely have to fight, but now isn't the time. To put it bluntly, we're just lacking a fuse. Snooker was right. By you going to exterminate the human race might very well be the reason for the war. Also, the internal situation of our human race is very chaotic. The 4 guardian races, Titan race, are acting very strangely. It seems like they might split off. What? Hua Jianro was shocked. Anyway, it's weird. Wan Yen frowned. Of course, we won't make a large-scale move in a short period of time. But it was like a time bomb. No one knew when it would explode. Let's not talk about this. Do you know why you suddenly wanted to exterminate a human race? For the future almighty. Meng Luo said. Future? Yes, the future. Hua Jianro nodded and said, he is a friend we met in the second universe, and we have a good relationship. A while ago, Bai was in the same examination area as him during the genius competition. Someone tried to assassinate her, but Future saved her. However, Future's fate was unknown. She must be angry to do this. I see. Hearing this, Wan Yen nodded. Then that she too deserves to die. It's just a pity that his clansmen are going to be buried with him. Have they already started? Hua Jianro raised her eyebrows. Yes, they've already started. Young miss, according to your request, Shitu's entire clan has been captured. A total of 376,4256 clansmen. None escape. On the Universe warship, Bai sat on the sofa and watched the old man in front of her report. Of course, she couldn't rush over in a few hours. But she could send the subordinate clans under her clan to capture Shitu's clansmen. Detain them all. Have them contact Shitu. It's already being done. The old man said, it seems like Shitu is prepared to give up on his clan. No matter who sends him a message, he won't get a reply, including his parents. Is that so? Then kill them. Bai's eyes were emotionless. She silently looked at the universe outside. Record a video and send it to him. Send a message for every kill. Young miss, are we really going to do this? The old man hesitated when he heard this. I can't? Bai Yu tilted her head. You can. Hearing Bai Yu's tone, the old man didn't hesitate and went to make the arrangements. From start to finish, Bai Yu only looked in the same direction. That direction was the direction Shitu had fled to. If he wanted his clansmen to live, then he would be captured without putting up a fight. If he didn't care about the lives of his clansmen, then what right did Bai Yu have to be a kind person? In the blink of an eye, 4 hours passed. Young miss. The old man hurried back. Shitu, he blocked the virtual network. I really underestimated his determination. Bai Yu smiled, while her eyes burned with passion. Hearing this, Bai Yu revealed a smile. His eyes flickered with burning flames. Then kill them all. Leave none alive. Young miss. Kill. What killing the innocent? In Bai Yu's eyes, killing all of them wasn't even worth a single finger from Yi Zichen. Damn it. Damn it. Shitu, who was also traveling through the universe in a spaceship, clenched his fist. He received a video. Bloody. All of them were videos of his clansmen being killed. He could roughly guess who did it. Bai Yu. Of course, it could also be Yi Zichen's clansmen, who were watching the livestream. However, he never would have thought that Yi Zichen would act so quickly. In just a few hours, Yi Zichen had captured all of his clansmen, killed them without any hesitation, and sent the video to him. Such decisiveness and efficiency. Shitu knew that he seemed to have made a wrong decision. Yi Zichen's background was much stronger than he had imagined. Unfortunately, since things had already progressed to this point, it was useless even if he regretted it. The only thing he could do now was hurry up and reply. Shitu messaged the Grim Reaper like crazy. Just what are you doing? I already devoured Yi Zichen with the Death Storm as per your request. Are you going to get rid of him after he's done grinding? I'm telling you. I have nothing now. I'm not afraid of anything. If you don't fulfill your promise, then don't blame me for exposing all of you. Go. At that moment, Shitu finally received the Grim Reaper's reply. What do you mean? Shitu glared. Are you not going to fulfill your promise? Fulfill my promise. The Grim Reaper also messaged him. Where did I tell you to use the Sandstorm activation device? And where did you use it? Yi Zichen is suspecting me if I... Shut up, damn it. The Grim Reaper clenched his teeth. If it wasn't for you, idiot, would things have turned out like this? I'm telling you, the Virtual World Corporation has already been investigated, and the tournament has been cancelled. I can't even protect myself right now, and you still have the face to come find me? Go die. Chapter 25-33. The Storm of Death. The instant the storm began to wreak havoc, Yi Zichen sensed it. At the time, he'd acted instinctively. He'd pushed Bai Yu out of the storm's range. Yi Zichen himself had been swallowed up by the storm, but it was already too late for him to escape. As he stood in the middle of the storm, his senses were completely sealed off. In the whirlpool at the center of the storm, every single grain of sand was like a sharp steel knife, leaving horrifying bloody wounds on his body. Most importantly, he had the feeling that after being swallowed up for a few hours, he was no longer in the Golden Desert, but rather at the bottom of it. After an indeterminate amount of time, Yi Zichen, at the center of the storm, felt like the storm wasn't as bad as before. He looked around in confusion, then realized that he was in an underground palace. Under these circumstances, although he was curious about the palace's existence, it wasn't all that important. What mattered most was recovering universal energy as quickly as possible. Fortunately, he'd obtained quite a bit of medicine from the supply boxes. Just as he was about to take out the supplies, he felt a surge of exhaustion after consuming a large amount of cosmic energy. It was as if he'd been hypnotized. Then, he fell to the ground with a thud. Emperor's Star. Emperor Star, wake up! As Yi Zichen stared blankly, he heard an urgent call. He slowly opened his eyes and saw the 5 elemental fairies standing in front of him, their eyes brimming with anxiety. Emperor Star. When they saw Yi Zichen open his eyes, the water fairy instantly used a recovery technique on him. The other elemental fairies' expressions relaxed as well. Why did you all come out? Yi Zichen had repeatedly warned them not to leave his body during the youth struggle. This wasn't a good thing for either them or Yi Zichen. Don't worry, no one can see us, said the fire fairy confidently. The fire elemental sprite said confidently, we've already asked Bailey to investigate the surroundings. This is no longer the examination area that you were in before. Is that so? Yi Zichen pushed himself off the ground and tried to stand up, but as he did, he felt his body stiffen. How long was I out? About 7 months. The fire elemental sprite replied, it was because you were unconscious, and there was no response no matter how much we tried to communicate with your sea of consciousness. That's why it left your arm. 7 months. Yi Zichen subconsciously touched his chin. Only then did he realize that he had grown a full beard and his hair had thickened. He's been unconscious for so long. You should be glad that you're still alive. Bailey suddenly appeared, his eyes filled with joy. You stayed in the center of the whirlpool of the storm for a total of 8 hours. In the middle, your cosmic energy had already been exhausted. You might not have felt it, but you had already overdrawn a large amount of cosmic energy, causing your cosmic sea to dry up. If we weren't lucky enough to be dragged here, you might already be dead. No wonder. As soon as he woke up, Yi Zichen tried to use cosmic energy to fix his appearance. However, he couldn't sense any cosmic energy on his body at all. In the end, he had overexerted himself and was completely exhausted. As for the rest, Yi Zichen shrugged without much concern. It was good that he could survive. The depletion of the cosmic sea was not important. Exhaustion, a little bit of nourishment could help him recover. No. Yi Zichen, who'd been calm just a moment ago, suddenly frowned. 7 months. After all, the exam this time was being broadcasted live. Su Yen and the others would definitely see themselves being swallowed up by the storm. They'd definitely been living in fear for the past 7 months. I have to tell them I'm safe as soon as possible. Subconsciously, he wanted to enter the virtual network. Stop thinking about it. Bailey shrugged when he felt Yi Zichen's connection request. There's no virtual network signal here at all. If you want to report that you're safe, then you can only leave from here. That's right. With that, Yi Zichen looked around him. This was a completely enclosed castle. He threw 2 punches in all directions. Although Yi Zichen no longer had any cosmic energy, he could still rely on his own strength to reach the star level. It didn't even leave a mark on the wall. This is the complete map of this place. At that moment, Bailey sent a map to Yi Zichen. While you were unconscious, I asked these elemental fairies to investigate the specific situation of the palace, and finally got this map. Yi Zichen looked at the complicated entrances and exits on the map silently. 8 trigrams. I'm not seeing things right? This is an 8 trigrams. Yi Zichen opened his eyes wide and pointed at the map in terror. 8 trigrams. There's actually an 8 trigrams here. I don't know whether it's an 8 trigrams or not. The only thing I know is that the only way for us to leave this place is to break through from here. Bailey pointed at a spot on the map. This is the place with the lowest density according to my investigation. It's also the easiest to break through from here. Break what break? Yi Zichen instantly revealed a look of disdain. I can tell that you people in the universe are uncultured. This is an 8 trigrams. Each 8 trigrams has 3 lines: Gon, Kun, Zhen, Sun, Kan, Li, Zhen, and Dui. They are separated into 8 directions, symbolizing the 8 natural phenomena of heaven: earth, lightning, wind, water, fire, mountain, and swamp. They symbolize the changes and cycles of the world. The 8 trigrams are separated into 8 gates: life, pain, rest, dew, scenery, death, shock, and opening. We just have to break this formation. I think we'll be able to get out of here. Yi Zichen understood that the people in the universe didn't understand at all when he saw Bei Li's confused gaze. Even though the humans in the universe had lived for a long time, unfortunately, their foundations were too weak. They had no culture at all. Just the 5,000 years of history of Huaxia on Earth felt like it was comparable to the billions of years of inheritance of these life planets. What was the use of just strength? Without cultural heritage and historical heritage, it would be incomplete. Then go and break it. Bei Li did not retort. He merely looked at Yi Zichen silently, as if he was waiting for Yi Zichen to slap his own face. TSK, then watch carefully. Watch and learn. Don't say that I didn't teach you anything. With that, Yi Zichen walked towards the 8 trigrams with his head held high. Chapter 25-34. The 8 trigrams. Although Yi Zichen recognized that it was the 8 trigrams, he didn't have a very deep understanding of it. If Su Yun was here, he might be able to tell that something was off. Yi Zichen was completely stunned the moment he entered the 8 trigrams. It was an unpredictable entrance and exit. And the direction. He was full of confidence at the beginning, but now he was in a daze. Ah, Bei Li. Yi Zichen rubbed his hands and tilted his head with a smile. Where's the place with a lower density that you said just now? Didn't you say that you weren't going to use brute force? Bei Li asked. Did I say that? Yi Zichen's expression did not change. I just wanted to come in and take a look to confirm whether or not this is the 8 trigrams from our world. You confirmed it? I confirmed it. This isn't from our world. I don't recognize it either. Yi Zichen was lying through his teeth to the extreme. Diagram. It was the 8 trigrams. It was no different from the 8 trigrams on Earth. To put it more simply, he didn't recognize it. He did have some idea at the start, after entering the life gate and exiting through the life gate, but after entering, the 8 trigrams started to change so much that he couldn't tell which was which. I'm getting a bit confused as well, Bei Li said after a brief hesitation. Don't mess with me. Yi Zichen tilted his head and looked at him. Didn't you guys come in here just now? How did you get out? If you really can't do it, then we can just leave. That didn't happen when we entered, the fire elemental fairy said. The other elemental fairies also nodded. When Yi Zichen was unconscious, they did enter the interior, and their positions didn't change at all when they entered or came out. They didn't know what to do with the sudden change in direction. Seriously? What's this for? Yi Zichen couldn't help but touch his hair. He frowned as he looked at the 8 trigrams that were changing without any sort of pattern. It was at this moment that the changing direction suddenly came to a halt. There was a straight path in front of Yi Zichen without any obstructions. He could clearly see the center of the 8 trigrams from where he was. It was the end of the straight path. Who are you? Yi Zichen frowned as he looked at the black-robed man with his back towards him. The black-robed man sat on the stone chair, his hand still holding the black pieces of a Go game. The controller of the 5 element. Yi Zichen suddenly heard a low murmur from within the 8 trigrams diagram. The murmur was so clear that Yi Zichen could hear it. Who are you? I am the owner of this 8 trigrams. The voice sounded out in Yi Zichen's ears once again. This is the second world I created. You. Yi Zichen's heart instantly froze. The golden desert outside is your work. Yes. The man smiled and nodded, then slowly turned around. Even as he did, Yi Zichen couldn't see his face clearly. Just now I sensed that you'd run into some trouble, so I brought you here. At the root of it all, I can be considered half your savior. Yi Zichen agreed with the black-robed man's words. The might of the death storm wasn't something he could endure. If he continued to stay in the death storm, he might end up being torn apart. Senior, thank you for your help. No worries, the black-robed man smiled. I merely sensed the aura of an old friend from you. I thought he came to find me, but I didn't expect to run into you. The aura of an old friend. The master of the Milky Way. He was the only person Yi Zichen could think of. Otherwise, who else could have the aura of someone who'd created the second world in the universe? But this old friend. Yi Zichen wasn't sure if he was friend or foe. In the face of these words, all he could do was to keep his mouth shut. I sensed wariness from you. That's good. It's not a bad thing to be vigilant in this universe. The black-robed man nodded with a smile. Senior, when can you let this junior out of here? There are still many people waiting for me outside. If I wait too long, this junior is afraid that they'll worry. Yi Zichen asked in a testing manner. There's no rush. The black-robed man shook his head with a smile, then held a chess piece in his hand. I've stayed here for far too long. It's been a long time since a human has come here. How about you play a game of Go with me? Of course. Yi Zichen nodded. You're quick to agree. The black-robed man glanced at Yi Zichen, then slowly placed the chess piece on the table. I'll give you 3 years. So long as you can come to me and play a game of Go with me, I'll let you out. If you don't make it here, you might die here. Senior. I don't want to do this either, but I don't have the final say here. The black-robed man sighed. This is the cursed land. What you see is actually my soul. In other words, I'm already dead. This is already the most I can do for you. The rest is up to you. Youngster, I'll wait for you here. With that, he didn't give Yi Zichen any time to respond. The entire 8 trigrams diagram began to change unpredictably again. However, it was different from before. The 8 trigrams diagram seemed to have transformed into individual rooms. Outside these rooms, there were doors that led to the inside. What's going on? Yi Zichen frowned and sighed as he looked at the doors. Do I have to start walking through a maze here? Yi Zichen let out a deep sigh. However, he wasn't too dejected, and reached out to grab one of the doors. There was no need for him to walk in at all. He felt the world around him change, then he arrived in a sealed room. The door he had just entered had also disappeared. Ding. Hello, beginner-level controller of 5 elements. Welcome to the 5 elements trial altar. This is the first checkpoint. Your draw is lightning. A metallic, mechanical voice sounded out from the room. Then, more than 30 lightning men covered in lightning crawled out from the floor of the room, which was less than 10,000 square meters in size, and stood there with lifeless eyes. They can't be asking me to beat them up, right? Yi Zichen subconsciously looked at the lightning elemental fairy when he saw the lightning men. Are you confident? I'm not sure, the lightning elemental fairy shrugged. I can't feel the level of the elements on them right now, but I think there shouldn't be any problems. At that moment, the metallic voice sounded out once more. Please decipher the origin of lightning within 6 months. You will be rewarded with a lightning elemental crystal core if you succeed. You will die if you fail. The trial officially begins. Good luck. Chapter 25-35. In the 8 trigrams diagram, Yi Zichen frowned as he looked at the lightning people in the room. 6 months. Destroy the thunder element source. What was that metallic sound just now? Crack. How was he supposed to break it? He didn't even give a clear explanation, yet he inexplicably sent someone to crack the thunder origin source? As Yi Zichen cursed inwardly, the lightning figures in the room seemed to come to life. They all began to move. They simply twisted their necks a couple of times. Then it locked onto Yi Zichen and the others. F***CK. What the hell? Once we get rid of all of them, we should be able to break it. Yi Zichen muttered to himself, then looked at the lightning man. Little Lei, this is your home turf. It's your turn to perform, said Yi Zichen. The lightning elemental sprite didn't disappoint. It released the power of lightning from its body, enveloping it completely in lightning as it charged at the lightning men. Such a dense thunder element, I'll kindly accept it. The Thunder Elemental Fairy was the beloved child of the Thunder Elemental. Among the Thunder Elemental Fairies, it was the highest-level ruler. This room was filled with lightning elemental energy. Even an elemental land couldn't compare to the abundance of lightning elemental energy here. An endless supply of thunder elemental essence. The lightning elemental fairy was practically invincible here. Yi Zichen and the other elemental fairies watched silently as the lightning elemental fairy charged through the room. None of the lightning people were able to withstand even a single round before being absorbed. It's not that difficult. The water elemental sprite lay lazily on the ground, muttering to itself with its head tilted. In less than 5 minutes, all of the lightning people in the room were destroyed. Yi Zichen also subconsciously looked around the room. There was no door. A pile of trash. The lightning elemental sprite smiled, its hands on its hips. The Emperor's star has been dealt with. Little Lei, look behind you. Just then, the fire elemental sprite spoke with a frown. Everyone saw that hundreds of lightning men had appeared in this spacious room at some point in time. There were more thunder men than before. His body was also bigger. F***CK. What's the situation? After spending so much time with Yi Zichen, the elemental fairies had learned Yi Zichen's catchphrases. The thunder elemental sprite was stunned for half a minute. Come at me then. No matter how many of you come, I'll kill them all. I'm not losing anything anyway. The thunder elemental sprite did not take this to heart. Almost without the slightest hesitation, the thunder elemental sprite charged towards the Thunder Man. Again, there were no surprises. This time, Leiren was dealt with in about 10 minutes. Less than half a minute after the battle was over. The Thunder Man had reformed. This time, there were more Thundermen than before, and they were much larger. Are you done yet? The Thunder Elemental Fairy frowned. Yi Zichen also frowned when he saw this. Perhaps they were all wrong. If they wanted to leave this place, they wouldn't have to kill all the lightning puppets gathered here. If they continued to kill like this, when will it end? With the efficiency of the Thunder Elemental Spirits, it wouldn't be long before the entire room was filled with these Thunder Elemental Spirit. More importantly, the strength of these lightning men seemed to be increasing. Right now, the Thunder Elemental Sprite's response was quite simple. What would happen next? If even the Thunder Elemental Sprite couldn't deal with it, how would they deal with it then? The mechanical voice had made it very clear. If he wanted to leave this place, he would need to break through the source of lightning. Xiaolei, don't kill them too quickly this time. If we want to leave this place, we shouldn't be killing them. Yi Zichen frowned. If we don't kill them, they will kill us. The Thunder Elemental Sprite said, these fellows have already locked onto us. Even if we don't attack, they will attack us. F***CK, I'll kill them. I don't believe that I can't kill them all. Do they really think that they can create an unlimited number of them? Endless birth. Yi Zichen was confused for a moment. Yi Zichen looked at the lightning people in the distance. If his senses weren't playing tricks on him, this situation seemed a bit like an instance from the second universe. He killed a bunch of them. The next batch would be born. Both their numbers and strength would increase. After killing a certain number of them, the final leader would appear. Could it be that it was the same here? If that was the case... Hey! Yi Zichen shouted towards the roof. The elemental fairies all looked towards him, thinking that he was calling them. I know you can hear me. I've been in contact with you before. Just how are we supposed to get out of here? Don't you need to give me a definite answer? How many waves of lightning people are there in total? Can we leave after killing them all? Where did you get in contact with them? As expected, the metallic mechanical voice sounded out from the room once again, with a hint of doubt in its tone. I've been to the second universe. Yi Zichen replied. Is that so? The next universe has already been born. The mechanical voice let out a sigh. The mechanical voice seemed to sigh. Looks like it won't be long before I can rest. With that, the mechanical voice's tone changed. I can tell you that there are 2 ways to leave this place. There is a book on the origin of lightning in front of you. If you can comprehend it, then you can leave from here. If you like the way the elemental fairies attacked just now, then you can as well. There are a total of 99 waves of lightning people here. The strength and number of lightning people that appear every time will be greater than before. There is a tyrant of lightning in the 100th wave, and if you kill it, then you can obtain the memories of comprehending the origin of lightning from it, then you can leave. But I need to remind you, no one has ever used force to leave this place. So you're saying that someone left this place through enlightenment? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. Yes, just one. Who? He calls himself Milky Way. The mechanical voice spoke. He is also the only person who has ever left this place. Milky Way. Milky Way Master. He's been here before? No wonder the black-robed man said that the Milky Way Master was his old friend. He guessed that the Milky Way Master had also played chess with the black-robed man. I remember now. At that moment, Sister Wind suddenly widened her eyes and said, "The Milky Way Master seemed to have mentioned this before." At that time, he was already a supreme being, but he still felt a lingering fear when he mentioned this place. He also said that it was a pity, that he really wanted to use force to charge into this place again, but he didn't have that kind of courage. Really? How come I don't know? The water elemental sprite said. Perhaps you haven't remembered. Sister Wind twitched her mouth, then looked at Yi Zichen solemnly. Emperor Star, I suggest that we continue comprehending it. The Milky Way Master, didn't he regret it last time? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled. He regretted not using force, right? I don't want to regret it in the future. Young man, I must remind you that there is a slim chance that you will die if you rely on force. You can't even imagine how strong you will become in the later stages. Bian even wasted time trying to show off. The mechanical voice reminded him. Don't we have another life? As he spoke, a golden sword materialized in his hand. That's enough for me. Chapter 25:36. According to what the mechanical voice had said at the beginning, the 5 element controllers were using the lightning element room. The next room should also be a room of the 5 elements. 6 months for each room. 5 rooms meant 2.5 years. The time given by the black-robed man was 3 years, so it was very likely that there would be another examination room after the 5 elements. Based on the 6 months' time, it would be exactly 3 years. 3 years. To Yi Zichen, it had been far too long. He couldn't afford to waste 3 whole years here. He couldn't even imagine how worried Su Yan and the others would be for him during these 3 years. He was also afraid that something would happen to the Milky Way galaxy in these 3 years. I must leave this place as soon as possible. Yi Zichen's eyes flashed with cold light as he grasped his golden longsword. He tossed the medicinal pills he'd obtained in the golden desert into his mouth by the handful. Fire, water, wind, thunder, and lightning. Here. The 5 elementals nodded solemnly. I don't have time to waste here. Please lend me a hand. Yes, Emperor Star. All of a sudden, Yi Zichen, with his golden longsword in hand, led the charge, while the other elemental fairies followed closely behind. Bailey, who stood on Yi Zichen's shoulder, also began to calculate. He couldn't delay any longer. They had to get out of here. He had to leave this place in the shortest time possible. Batch after batch of lightning men were killed. Then it was born from the room. From the initial few hundred, it gradually increased to over 1,000. Lei Ren's strength also climbed from the domain level to the nebula level, then the universe level. Yi Zichen, according to my calculations, based on our previous data in the second universe, the final tyrant should be a Marquis. Bailey said beside Yi Zichen's ear. Conferred Marquis? Yi Zichen was both astonished and secretly delighted by this level of strength. Are you sure he's just a Marquis? Do you think it's low? Bailey spoke. Above the universe were battle generals, admirals, commanders, and titles. The primary title was Count, and the secondary title was Marquis. In other words, they would have to face the Tyrant of Lightning, who was 5 levels higher than Yi Zichen. It was already very outstanding for ordinary humans to be able to challenge those of a higher realm. I think it's okay. Yi Zichen smiled. I estimated my peak combat strength to be at the Earl level, and Marquis isn't that far off. If I grit my teeth, I might be able to beat him. Do you have any misunderstandings about elements and humans? The elements were nurtured by the heavens and earth, just like the elemental spirits. If it was a universe-level human, they definitely wouldn't be a match for a universe-level elemental spirit. This was the universe's favor for the elemental spirits. Their gene levels were much higher than that of humans. Elemental Tyrant. Marquis rank. Even Bailey did not dare to imagine what kind of expert that person was. Yi Zichen actually felt like he could fight him. It doesn't matter if it's a misunderstanding or not. What matters is that we have no way out now. Yi Zichen pursed his lips and smiled. We've already fought for so long. Are we supposed to just give up? Moreover, one needed to be silent and focused while comprehending. Do you think you can still calm down in this situation? Bailey fell silent. They had indeed embarked on a path that they could not retreat from. Anyway, as your AI, I have to remind you. According to my calculations, the probability of us leaving this place is 1 in 20 million. Not bad. Yi Zichen maintained his smile. Just because it's not 0, it means that everything is possible. No one can predict the future, and we're not time elemental spirits, am I right? At this moment, they could only fight. Fight to the end. Milky Way. Human life planet, Earth. At this time, in the periphery of the Earth's atmosphere, there were no longer satellites launched by humans on Earth. Energy cannons were built everywhere around the Earth. These energy cannons were all charged, they were ready to fight at any time. We've already spent all our money. Yang Jian stood on the periphery of Earth, looking down at the energy cannon and exhaling deeply. This money was placed in Bai Yin's hands by Yi. Now there's not a single universe dollar left. Moreover, we still owe the bank 500 million universe dollars. It's all worth it. The great sage grasped his staff. Countless clones of the great sage stood guard around Earth. They were all vigilantly looking around. The invaders' families have already come to the Milky Way galaxy. Although they have not attacked Earth and have been mining resources on other planets, their existence has always been a threat to us. Fortunately, the overall strength of their vanguard isn't too terrifying, otherwise, I asked the all-seeing eye for help. They've already enslaved over a dozen life planet. Those damned invaders. Yang Jian clenched his fist. We're fine. With the money Yi left behind, we can buy some energy cannons and laser guns to deter them from rashly approaching our 3-life planet. Right, have you bought the survival bases? Asked the great sage. Yin Shang has already gone to buy them. A survival base was a base that provided suitable living space for humans. The first wave of invaders' families had already arrived. It wouldn't take long. More would enter the Milky Way galaxy. When that happened, Earth, the divine planet, and the immortal planet definitely wouldn't be able to resist. They had to leave the life planets ahead of time. Then they'd find a corner of the universe to live in and wait for an opportunity to strike. Abandoning their homes was hard to accept, but it was the only way. The most important thing right now is, has there been any news of Yi? Yang Jian shook his head. When the great sage saw this, he sighed deeply. How much longer can we keep this a secret? That's right. They'd already heard about Yi Zichen's predicament from Bai Yu and Bai Yin. Only Yang Jian, the great sage, and Yin Shang knew. No one else knew. They had no idea how to divulge this information. If they did, it would definitely cause even more panic. Earth's 3 planets were ready to evacuate. They all looked forward to Yi Zichen's return. They firmly believed that once he returned, he'd be able to reclaim his homeland. We still have to keep this a secret. Yang Jian gnashed his teeth. No matter what, we can't let anyone else know about this. Right now, we're just waiting for Shang's survival base. Once they've bought it, we'll retreat. I've already found a place to stay. When the time comes, we'll just fly there. Is our journey of wandering about to begin? Asked the great sage. We have no other choice. Yang Jian clenched his fists. This is all we can do. Chapter 25:37. Solemn. To the humans of the Milky Way, they were about to face the most devastating disaster of all time. Yang Jian and the great sage were Yi Zichen's close friends. They had the responsibility and obligation to endure all of this. No matter what, they had to ensure the safety of the humans on the mortal, immortal, and God planet. They had to hide Yi Zichen's predicament. They absolutely couldn't tell him. No matter how anxious they were, no matter how much they wanted to question the organizers, they couldn't split their attention. The only thing they could rely on was Yi Zichen, who'd never let them down. He'd always surprise them. He would survive. He definitely would. Within the 8 trigrams diagram, within the lightning elemental examination room, the Emperor's star. Aside from the lightning elemental fairy, the other elemental fairies sat on the ground, exhausted. Even elemental fairies needed to replenish their energy. What they replenished was elemental energy. Back in the universe, elemental energy was everywhere, so they could replenish it at any time. This room only contained lightning elemental energy. As a result, the other elemental fairies couldn't replenish their energy. Elemental exhaustion. Yi Zichen's heart ached as he looked at the exhausted fairies. They'd worked so hard. 3 months. The room was dark. According to Bei Li's calculations, they'd been here for a full 3 months. 3 months without sleep or rest. They'd fought without rest. Never mind the fairies, even Yi Zichen couldn't bear it. Mental torture. Physical exhaustion. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that if Yi Zichen wanted to, all he had to do was lie down and sleep. But he knew he couldn't. The people outside were still waiting for him. He firmly believed that was the case. The longer they stayed here, the more anxious and tormented the hearts of the people outside would be. He had to get out quickly. Rest well. Leave the rest to me. Yi Zichen patted the fairy's shoulders, then forced himself to focus and gripped his golden longsword. How is it? Can you hold on? I'm your godhead. I condensed it with your willpower. If you can hold on, then I'll naturally be fine. The sword godhead whispered in Yi Zichen's mind. That's true. Yi Zichen smiled in response, then struggled forward with heavy steps. Imperial Star. The fire elemental sprite frowned and stood beside him. The next wave will be the Thunder Tyrant. If we don't make a move, you've already done enough. There were a total of 99 waves of Thundermen, and the elemental spirits of the 5 elements were almost all the main damage output. Right now, they were already far away and on the verge of being exhausted. There was no way Yi Zichen would let them injure their origin energy and attack the Tyrant of Lightning. As he spoke, the lightning elemental sprite had already killed the other lightning men. In the middle of the room, 1,000 feet tall giant with lightning crawling all over its body emerged from the ground. So big. Feng Mei raised her head and looked at the gigantic creature in front of her. She could not help but click her tongue. In front of the Thunder Tyrant, they were all too insignificant. Belle, what's the level of the data detection? Yi Zichen looked at the colossal beast in the distance, and gripped his golden longsword subconsciously. I'm calculating. Bei Li's gaze was solemn. In front of him, there was a pocket-sized computer hovering in the air. Dense amounts of data appeared on the screen. It's out, Belle suddenly said. According to the data, this tyrant's strength is between the 6th and 9th level of the Marquis level. It's definitely not at the Duke level. 6th level. To Yi Zichen, being at the 6th level of the Marquis level was definitely heavy news. When he fought against the last wave of Elder Thundermen, the Admiral level, that was already quite taxing for him. But now, it was directly raised to the Marquis level, Human. The tyrant of lightning had already woken up. He looked down at the ant-like Yi Zichen and company from high above. His voice was like thunder, causing Yi Zichen and company to feel pain in their ears. I didn't expect you guys to actually make it here. The tyrant of lightning tilted his head to the side, as if he was tilting his head. Elemental sprite. Elemental sprite of the 5 elements. The favored elemental sprite of heaven and earth actually submitted to a human. How pitiful. You really talk a lot. The lightning elemental sprite sneered. Is that so? The tyrant of lightning paused for a moment, then pretended to think. After about half a minute, he said, maybe. I've stayed here for too long. You guys are the 3rd group of beings that I can talk to, so there are indeed more possibilities. The 3rd group of beings. The tyrant of lightning wasn't talking about humans, he was talking about living beings. In other words, non-humans have been here before, and they even met the tyrant of lightning. In other words, the previous 2 groups had also killed 99 waves of lightning people. Speaking of which, those 2 groups were pretty pitiful. Fire, wind, water and lightning tyrants passed through all of them. In the end, they all died here. They were just one step away from leaving this shitty place. AI, how many stages did you guys pass? Unlike the Thunder Men from before, the Tyrant of Thunder possessed complete intelligence. He could communicate with others like a human, and he even possessed emotions that humans possessed. It was like he was chatting with Yi Zichen and company as if he was talking about family matters. From the Tyrant of Lightning's words, Yi Zichen understood that the rooms of the 5 elements should be random and not fixed. You're the first stage, Yi Zichen said. Then you guys are pretty lucky, the Tyrant of Lightning shrugged with a smile. At the very least, you guys don't need to have any hope. It would save you a lot of energy if you directly died here. Since you have those elemental fairies, I'll be kind and save you guys. Elemental fairies should be high and mighty, how could they serve a human? With that, the Tyrant of Lightning instantly stood up from the room. All of a sudden, lightning surged in the entire room, while countless lightning dragons and lightning pythons were born. More importantly, countless lightning people were born in the room as well. F***ck. The lightning elemental fairy couldn't help but curse. At the very beginning, when he saw the lightning people, he felt like they could be nourished, but after several months, he was about to vomit. Fight me one-on-one if you have the guts. The lightning elemental fairy shouted angrily. The Tyrant of Lightning shrugged in satisfaction. We'll talk if you can come over. As they spoke, a black figure had already passed through the encirclement of countless lightning people and dragon pythons with nimble steps, and headed straight for the Tyrant of Lightning. Heh! Sly human. Chapter 25:38. To the Tyrant of Lightning, Yi Zichen. He was as insignificant as an ant in the eyes of a human. No matter how menacing an ant was, a human would never take an ant seriously. That was the case for the Tyrant of Lightning. He allowed Yi Zichen to pass between the lightning men and dragon pythons, and watched as Yi Zichen slowly approached him. To him, if he wanted to deal with Yi Zichen, all he had to do was press his finger lightly. Then, he could easily crush Yi Zichen. Emperor Star. The 5 elemental fairies were shocked. Yi Zichen didn't tell any of them when he attacked. His attack was so sudden that they couldn't react in time. When they finally came back to their senses, they saw that Yi Zichen had already reached the Tyrant of Lightning's feet. F***ck off. The lightning elemental fairy's palm surged with lightning, forcing back the lightning men and dragon pythons, then chased after Yi Zichen. Human. I admire your courage. The Tyrant of Lightning smiled nonchalantly. From the very beginning, he had never taken Yi Zichen, a human, seriously. In the eyes of elemental beings, humans were the lowest of life forms. They couldn't compare at all to them, who were the upper echelons of elemental beings. I also admire your arrogance. For some reason, Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and bit the corner of his mouth. Demon Dharma body! Rumble! As Yi Zichen roared angrily, a purplish-red glow suddenly appeared around his body. Holy and evil. Two completely different auras were released from Yi Zichen's direction. Then, the Tyrant of Lightning saw a gigantic creature appear in front of him. He was 100 meters tall. He couldn't even reach his knees under this gigantic creature. 12 pairs of black and white wings. One black and one white pair of eyes. Insignificant ant, you! Where did your courage come from? A godlike voice descended from the sky. The Tyrant of Lightning's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. His entire body tensed up as he looked forward. You're that human. Demon Dharma body. Sister Wind covered her mouth in shock. My God, how long has it been since the Emperor Star used his Dharma body? If it wasn't for him using it, I would have forgotten about it. That's about 3,000 meters tall, right? The water elemental sprite exclaimed. It seems like this isn't the limit of the Emperor Star Dharma body. Last time, it was already 10,000 zhang tall. The lightning elemental fairy also spoke up. Why didn't the Emperor Star just become 100,000 meters tall? Wouldn't it be fine if we just stomped it to death? It's not that simple. The fire elemental fairy frowned and said, although the conjured body can increase one's power to a certain extent, the increase in power is limited. What's more, having a large body size wasn't always an advantage. A large body size will also affect one's movements, making them slower. At least it looks impressive. The lightning elemental sprite shrugged. That's true. The fire elemental sprite nodded slightly. A huge body would indeed bring a strong visual impact to the enemy. Not considering strength, even if it was a domain level, with such a mountain-like body sitting on the ground, even a universe level would have to consider whether or not to fight him. This was a weakness of the human heart. Humans, or any other creatures, would subconsciously think that larger creatures were more powerful. That was why humans would subconsciously puff out their chests and glare when they encountered danger and fear. When a cat encountered danger, it would also do its best to bend its back and puff out its fur in order to make itself look bigger. This was a subconscious thought that all living creatures had. Yi Zichen suddenly released his demon Dharma body. It would definitely intimidate and shock the Tyrant of Lightning to a certain degree. Even if he was a marquee level. When he saw Yi Zichen's body, he hesitated. And tell me, who's the ant between us right now? As he spoke, Yi Zichen's body began to grow once more, until he was several thousand meters tall. The once mighty Tyrant of Lightning was now no taller than Yi Zichen's ankles. The Tyrant of Lightning was now no taller than Yi Zichen's ankles. The scene made it seem like Yi Zichen only needed to lift a foot to crush the Tyrant of Lightning into smithereens with the strength of his body alone. Say something. Yi Zichen looked down at the ant-like Tyrant of Lightning in the distant sky. However, he was rather surprised. He'd already risen to a height of tens of thousands of meters, yet he was still within the lightning elemental room. The ceiling of the room seemed just inches away, but he was certain that if he continued to express himself, the room would continue to express itself. This is an interesting room, Yi Zichen thought to himself. Yi Zichen muttered to himself. He looked down at the Tyrant of Lightning, who seemed to be too frightened to speak for a long time. Yi Zichen slowly squatted on the ground, reached out, and gently pinched the Tyrant of Lightning's head, as if he were picking up an ant. Then, he used 2 fingers to bring him in front of him. Hey! The Tyrant of Lightning felt Yi Zichen blow a breath of air at him. That breath was like the howling of a gale. It caused the Tyrant of Lightning to sway uncontrollably. Are you scared? Yi Zichen tilted his head and squinted his eyes with a smile. Or should I say, your contentment just now came from your body? Now, you seem to be inferior to me. You're a god! The Tyrant of Lightning shouted. I've let you see. Yi Zichen smiled at the Tyrant of Lightning, then cracked his neck. At that moment, he had an inexplicable urge to throw the Tyrant of Lightning into his mouth and crush him to pieces. But then he thought about it. He was actually just a Dharmakaya. It looked scary, but ultimately it was all fake. His real body was actually the height of a normal human. If you're a god, then let go of me and fight me fairly, the tyrant of lightning shouted angrily. This has always been the rule between the god race and us elementals. Since you're a god, then you should abide by it. Fair how? Turn into 100 meters, then we'll fight fairly, the tyrant of lightning frowned. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh with a smile, causing the tyrant of lightning's eardrums to hurt. Sure. Yi Zichen shrunk his Dharma body. Actually, the Dharma body was not a real body, it was just an illusion. The reason for its existence was to use the illusion to fight equally against any huge being. Yi Zichen didn't want to use the 10,000 meters. It was too big. It wasn't easy to lock onto the tyrant of lightning. Yi Zichen shrunk to 100 meters. The tyrant of lightning also returned to the ground and looked at Yi Zichen, who was 100 meters tall, with a hint of wariness in his heart. Idiot! However, the tyrant of lightning suddenly attacked Yi Zichen the moment he landed. Seeing that, Yi Zichen quickly swung his sword. For some reason, a warm feeling flowed through his arm. Yi Zichen was extremely familiar with this warm feeling. He looked at the sword energy that he sent out land on the tyrant of lightning in shock. Instant kill. Chapter 2539. The sword chi swept past. He could not be more familiar with the feeling of his arm surging just now. A one-hit kill. The secret skill he obtained in the second universe was also the reason why he was able to thrive there. What made him even more incredulous was, the secret technique was actually brought to the first universe. Yi Zichen stared at the tyrant of lightning in shock. The moment the sword energy pierced through its chest, it turned into pure lightning elements that spread out from the tyrant of lightning's body. At the same time, a crystal the size of an adult's palm fell to the ground. The crystal core was blue and white. Indistinctly, the surrounding area seemed to flicker with the power of lightning. If there were no surprises, this should be the reward mentioned at the start of the trial. Lightning Elemental Crystal Core. It's all mine. The Thunder Elemental sprite charged out almost instantly. He immediately grabbed the Lightning Elemental sprite and placed it somewhere before disappearing from the room. After that, it sat on the ground and opened its mouth wide. The lightning elements that had been released after the Thunder Tyrant's destruction flowed into the elemental spirit's mouth like a river. It devoured the elements of the Thunder Tyrant. No one is fighting with you. Yi Zichen couldn't help but remind the lightning elemental sprite, who seemed to be afraid that others would fight over the elements with it, and had even sucked its own stomach several times larger. Their distribution here had always been very clear. Whoever had the element would absorb it. The only ones who could absorb lightning elemental essence were the lightning elemental sprite and Yi Zichen, who controlled the Tao of the 5 elements. Naturally, he would not fight with the Thunder Elemental sprite over this. Yi Zichen was even afraid that the Tyrant of Lightning's elements would cause his body to explode when he saw how the Lightning Elemental Fairy was desperately absorbing. After around 10 or so minutes, the Thunder Elemental sprite finally finished devouring all of the elements, then sat cross-legged on the ground to absorb and digest them. What happened just now? The Thunder Tyrant has been killed instantly. The other elemental elves were still in shock and amazement. The insufferably arrogant look and tone of the Thunder Tyrant were still vivid in the minds of the elemental elves. They also acknowledged that the Thunder Tyrant was a troublesome opponent. Dead. Just for a moment. You got the secret method to the first universe? Bailey also asked beside Yi Zichen's ear. Yes. Yi Zichen nodded. Impossible. Bailey's tone was filled with terror. A one-hit kill. As long as one was a sane person, they would be very clear about what this secret technique represented. Back in the second universe, it was still alright, he only used the beasts and the natives there. In the end, when the human race went to the second universe, they still didn't have much of a sense of belonging. In the eyes of the humans of the first universe, this place actually felt like a game. Thus, when Yi Zichen triggered the sure kill technique in the second universe, Bailey didn't feel too much about it. But in the first universe, everything was magnified. Actually, even if Bailey didn't say it, Yi Zichen's heart was already in turmoil. But to really trace back to the source, no matter where this secret technique was used, it was an unsolvable existence. By relying on this secret method, the wielder would be able to challenge a higher level without any worries. There was no need to consider the effect of the attack. All he needed was a chance to trigger it. The only thing he had to worry about was ensuring his own safety. As long as he could ensure his safety, even if it was a supreme being, he had the possibility of killing him. The most powerful being. He was the supreme existence of the entire human race. He might die. This kind of thing, even thinking about it, was appalling. If Yi Zichen remembered correctly, Star-Lord Songyue was a supreme being. She was also the greatest enemy the Milky Way would face in the future. If Yi Zichen could master a sure kill technique in the first universe, he had the possibility of defeating her. Of course, that was on the premise that he could survive. Otherwise, even if he had a secret technique, given his current meager strength, a single breath from Star-Lord Songyue would be enough to pulverize him to dust. Yi Zichen estimated that he would at least be a Overlord-class being. Overlord-class. That was so far away. In any case, he had to hide. It's hard to say whether or not he really has it. This place is a bit like the second universe's instance. Perhaps the only secret technique is here. Whether or not it's in the first universe is unknown. Yi Zichen hesitated for a moment, then said, "We'll see when the time comes. But at least I have the secret technique. This trial should be fine." "That's right." Bailey smiled and nodded. "Let's hurry up and go to the next room." Yi Zichen looked at the extra door in the room, then up into the sky. "Does that mean I succeeded? I can go to the next room now." "That's right," replied the mechanical voice. "Then the origin of lightning you mentioned earlier. Your elemental spirit absorbed it," said the mechanical voice. "Just now, after the tyrant of lightning died, it was the origin of lightning. Your elemental spirit has already absorbed all of it." Yi Zichen tilted his head and glanced at the spirit sitting cross-legged on the ground. Fine. It didn't matter who absorbed it. Perhaps the effects would be better if the spirit absorbed it. If worst came to worst, he'd just have it explain it to him bit by bit when he had time. "Emperor Star, are we going to the next room?" "Wait a moment, Lil Lei," laughed Yi Zichen. "We'll leave after it absorbs it. In any case, we already have the secret technique. We're in a rush." The Milky Way galaxy. On a resource planet hundreds of light-years away from Earth, countless enslaved humans of the Milky Way mined the planet's resources, drenched in sweat under the scorching sun and scorching temperatures. Several thousand meters away from the resource mining site, Mingbu sat atop a tall tower with several members of the Tulip family beside him. Elder Mingbu. Mingbu had already been granted the title of honorary elder for life. Otherwise, the Tulip family wouldn't have come to the Milky Way galaxy. "Where are the clan head and the others?" "They'll need about half a month to enter the Milky Way galaxy," the Tulip family clansman replied. Mingbu couldn't help but arch his eyebrows in surprise. The clan head had arrived. His tyrannical days were about to come to an end. But before this, he'd always had a sore spot he hadn't resolved. It was Earth. He'd come to the Milky Way galaxy to become a master, but he never would have guessed that a few natives would force him to flee with his tail between his legs. Not a single one of his crew had survived either. Earth wouldn't be destroyed. This was like a thorn in his heart. More importantly, if he didn't deal with Earth, who knew how much Yu and the others would mock him when they arrived. He was an honorary elder. How could he possibly tolerate such a failure? "Did you find the person I asked you to investigate?" Mingbu furrowed his brows. Is there any new information? I came here to report this to you, the youth in front of Mingbu laughed. The young man standing in front of Mingbu chuckled and said, "The ruler of this planet is dead." Chapter 2540. Dead? Mingbu, who was sitting on the tower, suddenly stood up, his eyes filled with shock. Are you sure that Yi Zichen is dead? According to the intel, they had hacked into Earth's network. The Milky Way galaxy had a ruler, or rather, a ruler. It was the strongest person in the Milky Way galaxy's human race, or rather, the mortal, immortal, and god planet. It was Yi Zichen. When Mingbu first arrived on Earth, his crew had mentioned him. At the time, Mingbu didn't care about him at all. A native? What was there to care about? It was when he fought Su Luer Shang and Go Yuzhan. A few star system level guys had beaten him, who was at the peak of the universe back. While he felt ashamed, he also recognized the true strength of these natives. They weren't as easy to bully as normal natives. No matter what, this was a star system with life left behind by the Milky Way master. Perhaps the natives were different from the other native planets. As a result, he had always been worried about Yi Zichen's strength. His subordinates were already like that. Then Yi Zichen, the strongest of them all, was probably even more ridiculously strong. That was why he hadn't rashly caused trouble for Earth. On the surface, it was to recover, but in reality, he was rather wary of Yi Zichen. After leaving Earth, Yi Zichen had taken over several life planets at lightning speed, enslaved them, and sold them for resources. When the first batch of Tulip family members arrived, his workload lightened slightly, and he sent people to investigate Yi Zichen's situation. This was to find out his true strength. That way, he could decide whether or not to continue causing trouble for Earth. Yet, Yi Zichen was dead. You have to confirm. Yi Zichen. Is he really dead? Mingbu couldn't help but confirm again. I'm certain. He really is dead. The Tulip family member replied with absolute certainty. Look. As he spoke, a projection appeared in front of Mingbu's eyes. The projection showed the scene of Yi Zichen being swallowed by the storm of death. This is the final scene of Yi Zichen's exam. During the exam, Yi Zichen was swallowed by the storm of death. He hasn't come out for a year. The Virtual World Corporation has terminated the assessment for this assessment zone. We've sent a team of professionals into the assessment area to search and rescue, but they haven't found any signs of Yi Zichen's survival. Mingbu frowned as he listened to his clansman's report. The Virtual World Corporation has terminated the assessment? Mingbu raised her head and narrowed her eyes. He has connections with the Virtual World Corporation? Not really. I heard that the reason for stopping the test was because of the abnormalities in the death storm. Considering that it might have been caused by someone, the Virtual World Corporation suddenly stopped the test to investigate and find Yi Zichen, who was swallowed by the storm. Mingbu nodded. He rubbed his chin for a long time without saying a word. But even if we can't find the corpse, it doesn't mean he's really dead. Elder, please take a look. The clansman waved another projection. This is the death list that was just announced for the Genius competition. Yi Zichen is one of them. His name is prefixed with the planet Blue River. According to our investigations, he did participate in the competition as a member of the Blue River race. Planet Lord Blue River even gave him the title of recommendation. Mingbu stared at Yi Zichen's position on the death list. Dead. He was really dead. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Mingbu couldn't help but laugh. Good for you. Mingbu's eyes were filled with excitement. Yi Zichen was dead. What else did he have to worry about? The fact that he was beaten back by Earth's star system level experts was purely because he was too careless. As long as he was a bit more careful, there was no way they would be able to do anything to him. Mocha, gather all of our clansmen here. Elder, you want to? Mocha asked in a testing manner, even though he already had a general idea of what he wanted to do. We're going to Earth. Elder, please allow me to say one more thing. If we send all of our clansmen away, the slaves here, leaving a few star system level ones to watch over them is enough. Mingbu glanced at the slaves outside. They're just some slaves who have already been scared out of their wits. They don't have any backbone at all. Did you know that the moment I arrived on their life planet, they knelt in front of me without any resistance? Do you know what that means? I don't. Mocha shook his head. It means that they're already a bunch of soulless walking corpses. Even if we send everyone away, there's no way they would resist and escape. Mingbu smiled. Mingbu smiled and said, some people, the moment they kneel down, they can no longer stand up. Submitting in front of the strong. For the weak, this was being sensible. What they didn't know was that in the eyes of the strong, those who submitted merely lacked backbone. This was reflected in these people. They didn't feel the thrill of conquering them at all. In contrast, Mingbu preferred the hard bones of Earth. I understand, Mocha nodded. Emoka nodded. I'll go make the arrangements now. Mingbu couldn't help but smile as he watched Mocha fly off into the distance. His mind was filled with the image of that beautiful planet. Tough bones. Then, I will crush your bones with my own hands and destroy your life star. In front of me, Lord Mingbu. Not submitting means death. I once gave you guys a chance, but you didn't treasure it. Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame Yi Zichen for dying. Earth. A silver-white spaceship arrived above Earth's oceans. The cabin door opened. Yin Shang, who'd purchased a survival base, walked out solemnly. Almost the instant he appeared, two figures, one black and one gold, shot towards him. Yin Shang. Just the two of you? Where did the others go? Yin Shang glanced behind them, but didn't see anyone else. Su Luer took them to the divine planet, said Yang Jian. That's right. I see. Yin Shang nodded. We have to get them back as soon as possible. What is it? Yang Jian's heart trembled. Didn't you go out to purchase a survival base? See for yourself. Yin Shang gnashed his teeth and pulled out a list of names that looked like a newspaper. The great sage reached out and grabbed it. A list of the dead. Shockingly, Yi Zichen's name was on the list. Yi Zi's dead. The great sage's eyes instantly turned bloodshot. How is this possible? Where did you get this list? Tell me. Just who sent it? I'm going to ask them. How could Yi Zi be dead? This is bullshit. The Virtual World Corporation. The rims of Yin Shang's eyes reddened. The Virtual World Corporation sent out a notice announcing the deaths of the geniuses. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. The great sage tore the list to shreds. He looked like he was about to go mad. How could Yi Zi be dead? Yin Shang, they don't know, but do you think we don't? Yi Zi absolutely can't be dead. He just ran into some trouble. Don't you know that? He can't be dead. Isn't that right? Towards the end, the great sage's tone was somewhat lacking in confidence. The Virtual World Corporation. Although they'd only been in the universe for a short time, they knew this was one of the most authoritative organizations in the universe. They'd announced a list of the dead. Perhaps Yi Zi really was. Of course I don't believe it. Yin Shang shook his head vigorously. But right now we're facing a huge problem. On my way back, I think I saw an army of invaders, and they're heading for Earth. Chapter 2541. Above Earth's oceans, Su Luer crossed her arms and stood in the sky, accompanied by Go Yuzhan and Su Yen. Why did you call us here in such a hurry? I'm pretty busy on my end. Ever since Mingbu invaded Earth. Just as Su Luer had said, she'd shouldered all the pressure of defending Earth. During this time, she'd practically stayed on the divine planet to train the planetary masters. As for the results, she thought it was pretty good. Everyone's strength had advanced by leaps and bounds. The only pity was that she didn't have enough time. If she could give her 10 years, she wouldn't need too much time. She was confident that she'd be able to raise at least 10 universe-level experts among the planetary masters. 10 universe-level experts. That was an impressive number. After all, many life-bearing planets didn't even have a single universe-level expert. Universe-level. That was enough to protect a life-bearing planet. Like the Blue River planet's planetary master. That was about it. Why are you all so dejected? Su Luer glanced at the great sage, Yang Jian, and the others suspiciously. In the past, among them, the two of them had been the most optimistic. That invader has come to cause trouble for Earth again? That's right. Only then did Yin Shang let out a deep breath and nodded. When I returned just now, I vaguely saw the invader gathering his strength. He's coming for Earth. Su Luer frowned. 90% likely. Yin Shang nodded. Based on the information I've gathered, all the life-bearing planets in the Milky Way are now in his hands. In other words, the only life-bearing planets that haven't been enslaved are the three of us. If he's gathering his forces right now, I can't think of any other possibility if he's not here to cause trouble for us. He's here again? How long has it been? Go Yuzhan furrowed his brows. He felt as if Mingbu's invasion had happened just yesterday. Mingbu was going to attack Earth. Su Luer's expression changed slightly. Fortunately, she wasn't too worried. So what if he comes? Su Luer sighed and shrugged. No matter what, he's given us plenty of time to prepare. If he hadn't come, I'd have found it strange. Now that he's here, I can relax. It's just a pity he didn't have enough time. The planetary masters might not be able to use him. Still us. Go Yuzhan frowned. Last time, in order to repel Mingbu, it could be said that they had used all their skills. Not to mention anything else. Go Yuzhan still hadn't fully recovered from his injuries. Even with Su Yan's life force healing him, some hidden injuries couldn't be healed with life force alone. Furthermore, among them, Su Luer was the one with the heaviest injuries. Although she appeared to be fine, she was actually in the worst condition out of all of them. In her current situation, she might not even be able to display 1/5 of her true strength. At this time, Mingbu made a comeback. This was definitely bad news for Earth. It's a little difficult. Su Luer didn't let her guard down. She was well aware of her current situation. If she tried to show off, not only would she hurt herself, but also the others. I don't think we can fight them. We can only count on the energy cannons and the laser guns to resist them and buy time for the human clan to retreat from these 3 life stars. By the way, have you bought the survival base? I'm done. As he spoke, Yin Shang took out 3 palm-sized white boxes. Everyone looked at his palms. This is a portable survival base. Yin Shang glanced at them, then sighed and explained, the space inside is about 2/3 the size of Earth, more than enough for the humans of our 3 life stars to live in. It might just be a little cramped. If it were just for the humans of Earth, it should be quite spacious for the humans of Earth to live in. After all, Earth's oceans took up most of its surface area. There was definitely no ocean in the survival base. It was purely a place for humans to live in. Looking at it that way, there was more than enough space for the humans of Earth to live in. But the immortal planet and divine planet were several times, or even dozens of times larger. The divine planet's population was probably 100 times, or even 1,000 times larger than Earth's. Considering all these factors, it was only natural for the humans of these 3 planets to live in a survival base like this one. Just this little thing? Go Yuzhan was shocked. How long can we live in there? Asked Su Luer with a frown. She knew very well that this kind of survival base couldn't possibly provide them with a living environment for too long. If it really could, then there wouldn't be so many slave galaxies in the universe. All they had to do was send a few experts with survival bases. 20 years. Yin Shang sighed. I bought a good survival base. The resources inside are enough for us to live in for 20 years. That's a lot. In Su Luer's opinion, 20 years wasn't bad. Although, it was still a bit short. In truth, there are many survival bases in the universe that are suitable for humans of Earth. They can last even longer. Some can last for thousands of years, even tens of thousands of years," said Yin Shang. "Those survival bases are just like Earth, artificial planets. Considering that we're currently fleeing from a disaster, these portable ones are more suitable for us. If we can avoid this calamity, we can consider those survival bases." "Why should we?" Lure was stunned. She didn't quite agree with him. Is Yi Zichen still not coming back after 20 years? Does he really want to spend the rest of his life doing nothing? At the mention of Yi Zichen, Yin Shang, the great sage, and Yang Jian's expressions darkened. After a while, Yin Shang smiled and said, "That's true. But Big Sister Lure, didn't you say last time that you weren't counting on the Emperor Star? That's why I didn't consider the Emperor Star." Before Yin Shang could even finish speaking, several hurried figures appeared in the skies above Earth's seas. "You're all here. That's great." The newcomers were none other than Wu Di. His expression was filled with panic. "This is bad. I just saw over 1,000 spaceships arrive. They really came." Su Lure narrowed her eyes, then placed the survival base in Wu Di's hands. "This is a survival base. Get the humans of the 3 life-bearing planets here as quickly as possible. Our Master of the Stars will buy you time." "Understood." Wu Di grabbed the survival base and left the seas. He looked at the great sage and Yang Jian, who still wore solemn expressions. "Aren't they just invaders? Relax, I'm going to the Divine Planet to bring the Master of the Stars. Let's give those invaders an unforgettable memory." Chapter 2542. He was in a daze. How could the great sage and the others be afraid of Mingbu? They did this for Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen's name had been imprinted in their minds ever since they'd received the list. How could they possibly raise their spirits after hearing this? If it wasn't for that name list, the great sage would have picked up his staff and fought Mingbu and the other invaders. Who cares what universe they are? All of them had to eat a blow from him. After they left, the great sage let out a long sigh and shook his head. "I don't believe it." No one believed it. Yin Shang suddenly interrupted the great sage. "I'm not telling you all this to make you look like you've lost your souls. I'm telling you, I think we have the right to carry the Milky Way," Yin Shang said solemnly. It was like a heavy hammer striking the great sage and Yang Jian's hearts. "You don't believe that the Emperor's star will die. I don't believe it either. No one will believe it, and no one is willing to believe it. In my heart, I naturally hope that the Emperor's star is still alive." Yin Shang looked into the great sage and Yang Jian's eyes, then placed his hand on their shoulders. "But right now, we have to pretend that all of this is real." To them, Yi Zichen's life or death had a huge impact on them. If he gives birth. Thus, they always believed that no matter how terrible the situation was, Yi Zichen would eventually appear and resolve it. To put it simply, they still had a way out. But if the news of Yi Zichen's death was true, then they had nothing to rely on. They could only rely on themselves. Big Sister Lu Er's words last time enlightened me. We've always been too reliant on the Emperor's star. Yin Shang exhaled deeply. Right now, what we need to do is deal with the problem of the invaders. As for the Emperor's star's fate, we pray that he's still alive, but we also need to prepare for the worst. You two are the 2 most powerful brothers in the Emperor's star. Emperor Hades isn't in the Milky Way galaxy right now, and I'm the left minister of the Emperor's star. You two will fight against the Milky Way galaxy's future with me. Yin Shang is right. Yang Jian nodded heavily. Monkey, we have to shoulder the future of the Milky Way. F***CK. Where is the intruder? Watch how I, old son, beat him up. The great sage wasn't someone who had the gift of the gab. The 2 sentences he had just said proved that he approved of Yin Shang's words. Someone had to carry the galaxy. It didn't matter if Yi Zichen lived or died. If he gave birth, they should also lighten his burden. Outer space. The mighty Star-Lord army landed on the periphery of Earth. Cheered up? Su Luer, who'd brought the Master of the Stars back, sensed the change in the great sage and Yang Jian's emotions. That's how it should be. Say, in order to enlighten you, I've become less cold and aloof. Actually, it's pretty good for you to be like this, said the great sage with a smile. Is that so? Su Luer ran her fingers through her hair. Every frown and smile of hers was incredibly seductive. She was a typical woman in love. Let's not talk about this. How long until that Mingbu guy arrives here? Su Luer looked at the empty space in front of them. Soon. Yin Shang and the others did not know exactly how long it would take. At this time, there was no way to send people to investigate. If they rashly went to investigate, they would most likely be killed. Familiarize yourself with the battle preparations as soon as possible. With a wave of her hand, the 3,000 Master of the Stars took up positions behind the energy cannons. These are the 3,000 strongest Master of the Stars, said Su Luer. They're all at or above the cosmic system level. If they infuse their bodies with starlight, not many of them can reach the peak of the cosmic system level. Thank you for your hard work. Su Luer made it sound easy, but the great sage and the others knew full well how much effort she'd put into helping these Master of the Stars reach this level of strength. If she hadn't taught them day and night, then it was impossible for these Master of the Stars' strength to advance by leaps and bounds in such a short period of time. 3,000 cosmic system level expert. What a delightful number. If these experts were placed on any other native planet, even a non-native one, the planet's stability would be guaranteed. Unfortunately, on Earth, this strength was far from enough. Mingbu's backer was the Tulip family. They had countless cosmic experts, including generals, admirals, commanders, and even titled experts. In this battle, all they had to do was buy time. They had to buy enough time for humanity to evacuate. How's Earth's evacuation going? Asked Su Luer. When she'd been in the God Realm, she'd taken a quick look. Their evacuation could only be described as chaotic. Even she didn't say much. She could understand this kind of confusion and panic. Chaos. Yin Shang let out a long sigh. News of the evacuation of the survival bases had spread throughout Earth for a long time. The humans on Earth had gradually come to accept it. But when the day actually came, the fear in their hearts would be magnified limitlessly. Because entering the survival bases and evacuating meant that Earth had reached a critical juncture of life and death. They would have to abandon their homeland and live in a completely unfamiliar environment. They didn't know what the future held, and many people were unwilling to give up their wealth. In short, there was only one word to describe it: chaos. Yin Shang and the others watched and worried. But they had no time to get involved. They could only leave it all to Wu Di. Because while humanity was evacuating, they had more important things to do. As expected, Su Luer nodded. How long will it take? There aren't many humans on Earth, so we should be able to evacuate them all in a day. Yin Shang calculated silently. But the god and immortal planets need time, especially the immortal planet. There are many races there, and many of them aren't used to living with other races. They might be hard to deal with. Based on my calculations, we'll need at least 5 days for them to evacuate. 5 days. Su Luer couldn't help but bite her lip. With just the few of them and the planet's defensive weapons. When the time comes, who'll take the survival base with them? Me, said Yang Jian. I've already found a suitable place for us to hide. You can rest assured. All right. Then I'll leave it to you. Taking the survival base with them was absolutely dangerous. It was entirely possible that the dark spot was already being guarded by Mingbu's people. If they wanted to leave, they had to kill their way out. When the time comes, we'll cover Yang Jian's escape, said Yin Shang. Su Luer said, let's hold out for 5 days first. Our main mission right now is to hold out for 5 days. As soon as she finished speaking, Far away in outer space, flashing motes of light appeared. At that very moment, everyone's hearts trembled. The invaders have arrived! Everyone, get ready! Chapter 2543. Outer Space. As far as the eye could see, there were countless spaceships. At a rough estimate, there were at least 1,000 of them. Even though there were quite a few of them as they flew through the air, everything was in order. Over 1,000 spaceships were divided into 3 rows. 10 spaceships formed a horizontal line, extending backwards. From this, it could be seen that the Tulip family's style was very strict. Less than 2 minutes had passed since they'd first seen the dots of light. They could see the spaceships with the naked eye. Silver and black. Right in front of the spaceships was a burning tulip. They sure got here fast. Looking at the many spaceships cutting through outer space, one could feel a heavy pressure just from the sheer number of spaceships. Even if each spaceship only carried a dozen or so people. This was an army of tens of thousands of people. And that was the best-case scenario. If there were hundreds or even thousands of people on board. Yi Zichen had once bought a spaceship that could hold thousands of people. This really is a disaster. Yin Shang's eyes were grave. He looked at the number of spaceships and couldn't help but sigh. An unprecedented pressure weighed on his heart. If it weren't for the fact that he had Earth behind him, as someone from Earth, he had to protect this place. To tell the truth, he wanted to leave. Why are there so many? Su Luer knitted her brows as she looked at the spaceship in the distance. She couldn't help but transmit the message. Perhaps she'd underestimated the Tulip family's strength all this time, or perhaps she'd never imagined that their vanguard force would be so large. Didn't you say they were the vanguard force? That's right. Yin Shang nodded. Big Sister Luer, you have to think about it. At our peak, Earth's population was over 6 billion. The population of the universe is far greater than ours. It's actually quite normal for a family of some size to have millions of members. Aren't these tens of thousands of people our vanguard force? Su Luer understood. That wasn't wrong. She thought the Tulip family had sent so many people mainly because they had too few people on Earth. In terms of human population, there were 3 life planets. Even the god planets alone had at least 100 billion inhabitants. But they didn't have anyone who could fight. They had a large population, but their overall strength couldn't keep up with the universe's combat power. He didn't even mention the cosmic system state. There weren't many domain realm experts in the 3 life stars. How annoying. Su Luer scratched her head. She rarely showed her annoyance. Because in the Milky Way with her strength, she had the qualifications to control the entire situation. Have the strength. When faced with a problem, he could naturally face it calmly. The current situation was far beyond her ability, and the feeling of powerlessness in her heart made her a little impatient for a moment. When they saw Su Luer's expression, the others felt pretty much the same. It was really, the scene in front of them was far beyond what they could accept. During this time, the invading army led by Ming Bu was getting closer and closer to the Tulip family. Ready to charge. After a while, Su Luer loosened her grip on her hair and shouted to the Masters of the Stars behind her. Energy cannon. As the name suggested, it was a planetary defense device that required cosmic energy to be used. Generally speaking, energy cannons were charged using energy crystals to replenish energy. However, Earth's situation was special. They'd already spent all of the savings Yi Zichen had left behind in order to purchase this defensive equipment and survival base. They had no extra money to buy extravagant energy crystals. If they wanted to charge the energy cannons, they could only replenish them with cosmic energy. Turbulent cosmic energy surged into the cannons. Gradually, the energy cannons that had received the infusion of cosmic energy began to release a dim white glow. At that moment, everyone held their breath. They were just waiting for Su Luer to give the order. Then, they'd fire the cannons. The invasion and defense battle had begun. As the Masters of the Stars calmed their minds, Su Luer and the others clenched their fists and calculated the distance. It's really about to begin. Yin Shang's eyes were bloodshot as he transmitted to the approaching fleet of spaceships. This battle was finally about to begin. Even though in their hearts they didn't want this to happen. It was true that they'd bought the cannons for defense. However, they hoped even more that they wouldn't fire a single shot and that they'd be able to safely evacuate. Unfortunately, the Tulip family had arrived far too quickly. It wasn't that Yin Shang and the others were dragging their feet. They'd already done everything they could within the limited time they had. After Ming Bu's invasion, they'd secretly left through a spatial dark spot and entered the universe's network to search for information that could guarantee the safety of the planet. They'd all considered buying a life planet. That was the result of their search. But it was too expensive. They didn't know how the evaluators had evaluated the planet. Earth, the immortal planet, the god planet. 3 life planets cost 600 billion cosmic dollars. Of that, Earth needed a full 450 billion. After all, many life planets, even ones larger than Earth, could be bought for a few hundred million. Some even cost a few dozen million. 600 billion was the price. For people who'd just come into contact with the cosmos, this was an astronomical figure. They couldn't buy it. They couldn't obtain the protection of the universe nation. They could only settle for the next best thing, and use the gold card Yi Zichen had given Beiyu to buy things that might be beneficial to them. That was where the laser guns and energy cannons came from. Survival base. It was one of the solutions they'd found while searching the network. During this limited time, they didn't delay at all. They did everything they needed to do. Unfortunately, the Tulip family had arrived. Fortunately, they came at a time when Earth was already prepared and had already purchased a survival base. If not for that, the situation would have been even worse. Let's fight. We can only blame ourselves for being weak. Yang Jian clenched his Erlang Dao. We'll remember this grudge. Don't give us any time to breathe. If we're allowed to grow, we'll definitely fight our way to the Tulip family's front door. That's right. We'll definitely pay back for today's humiliation. Yin Shang narrowed his eyes in anger. Even so, we have to make them suffer a bit, Su Luer transmitted. We have to let them know that the Milky Way isn't a place they can enslave just because they want to. With that, Su Luer, who'd been calculating the distance, raised her right hand. Fire! Chapter 2544. Among the many spaceships, Ming Bu's spaceship landed in the middle. There were battleships surrounding it for protection. There were 2 types of spaceships, combat and manned. In this batch of spaceships, combat spaceships made up 20% of all spaceships. The Vanguard was mainly here to investigate the situation of the Milky Way galaxy. And under the circumstances where the Milky Way galaxy's defenses were weak, the Tulip family didn't need to send too many battleships here. The manned spaceships were about the same. The energy consumption of battleships was 3 times that of a manned spaceship that could carry more than 300 people. It wasn't easy to maintain a family. Save whenever possible. Actually, with Ming Bu's strength, he didn't need the protection of battleships to attack Earth. Deploying battleships was purely to show the aboriginals on Earth, to let them know the gap between them and the universe. Sitting in the cabin, Ming Bu sipped his fruit wine, his eyes filled with contentment. At this time, he was as lazy as a master. If it was him 10 years ago, anyone who saw him like this would scoff. This was the person he hated the most. Little did he know, 10 years later, he had also become the person he hated the most. And he enjoyed it. He finally understood. At that time, he didn't actually hate this kind of person. He was just jealous that this kind of person wasn't him, so he rejected it. When he really became like this, it felt pretty good. He sipped his fruit wine. This fruit wine was obtained on a slave planet after he came to the Milky Way galaxy. He quite liked the taste of this fruit wine. Lord Ming Bu, Mingbu, who was enjoying the wine, raised his eyebrows. In front of him, Mocha was standing with her hands behind her back. Mocha? What is it, have we arrived? Mingbu lowered his eyebrows and patted the hands of the two women behind him, indicating for them to leave. We are 35 minutes away from Earth. Mocha replied respectfully, You reminded me to inform you when we are about to arrive. Not bad. Mingbu nodded in satisfaction and drank the fruit wine in one gulp. I didn't expect to arrive so quickly. Our travel efficiency is quite high. Calculating the time, they had used less than a day's time from beginning to end. Unexpectedly, they were already close to reaching Earth. We are the advanced team, and the spaceships we take are the latest products in the universe. Our speed is much faster than normal spaceship. Mocha explained with a smile. Actually, even so, we are not moving at full speed. Considering the loss of energy, we have been traveling at a steady speed. The clan is still wealthy. Mingbu, who was sitting in the cabin, sighed, then stretched lazily and patted the metal wall of the cockpit. Initiate outer space projection. In an instant, the entire spaceship seemed to have become transparent. From his position, he could clearly see everything outside. We're almost there. Mingbu muttered subconsciously, then walked to the edge of the spaceship and looked out. From where he stood, he could already see Earth's position. Mocha, look. Mingbu pointed at the blue planet outside. This is the life star I want to attack. I've been to this life star once. The environment there is definitely a paradise for humans. I can feel it. Even from the outer layer of the planet, one could see that this life star was much more suitable for humans to live in than many other life stars in the universe. I want to attack this life star, and bring all the people I used to live on here to settle down. Mingbu licked his lips, his eyes a little blurred. I must attack this place. Sir Mingbu, this galaxy does not belong to our tulip family. Mocha reminded him. Their family came here to mine resources. It did not mean that this galaxy belonged to them. Why bother so much? At least this place is under our tulip family's rule, right? Mingbu shrugged and returned to his comfortable reclining chair. Call me when you're there. I'll go there myself. The alarm sounded. The entire cabin of the spaceship flashed with a red light. Mingbu's eyes darkened. What happened? Mocha frowned, then the communicator on his chest began to flash violently. This is Mocha. Yes. What? In less than half a minute, Mocha's eyes were filled with astonishment. What happened? Mingbu frowned. Elder, our vanguard was attacked by energy cannons. 6 fake spaceships have been destroyed. Mocha's face was solemn. More than 10 spaceships were heavily damaged, several of them were affected. Are there any casualties? Not sure yet, Mocha said. It happened too suddenly, we did not have time to investigate. Just now, the pilot of the Vanguard informed me. How can it be? Mingbu frowned. If there was an attack from an energy cannon, why didn't we hear anything? Energy cannons can be very loud. Even if we are in the Vanguard, we should be able to hear it. The outer space of the Milky Way is different from the outer space of our universe. There is no sound in outer space. Mocha's face was calm. So we did not know that our spaceships were attacked. Elder, now that we are under attack, what do we do? Being attacked by energy cannons. This was something they had never considered before they left. The humans here did not have any contact with the outer space. That was why the Milky Way was called a native galaxy. Energy cannons were offensive and defensive weapons in space warfare. Given the native galaxy's technology, there was no way it could be forged. If they went to the outer space to buy it, even the worst energy cannon would cost more than 5 million universe credit. From the information he'd just received, a single volley from the enemy had caused their fleet to suffer disastrous losses. One could only imagine. The energy cannons on the native planet were of decent quality. At the very least, they were mid-grade. Where did they get the funds? Who bought them? Head to the Vanguard. Mingbu slapped the metal walls of the cockpit and shouted. With that, his spaceship broke away from the fleet and flew over the fleet. But before he could get very far, one after another, white energy cannons shot towards them. The spaceships hurriedly dodged. Mingbu finally saw Su Lu and the others standing outside Earth, waiting for them, as well as the energy cannons behind them. Chapter 2545. Hit them! The great sage's eyes were filled with excitement as he stood outside Earth. He saw with his own eyes the energy cannons land on the first few spaceships and blow them up. Among the wreckage of the spaceships, a dozen Tulip clansmen crawled out. Before they could even react, they were bombarded to death by the energy cannons behind them. Hit them with everything you've got! Hit them hard! Seeing the power of the energy cannons, the great sage waved his staff and shouted, even though the others couldn't hear him. It wasn't just the great sage. Everyone who saw this was overjoyed. At first, they didn't know how powerful the energy cannons were against the invaders. But now the spaceships simply couldn't withstand the energy cannons' attack. Their originally nervous hearts calmed down a bit. 1,500 energy cannons fired in unison. These white energies were like streams of light that cut through the empty outer space, adding a lot of color to the outer space. The only pity was that there was no oxygen in the Milky Way. Even if the energy cannons hit the spaceships, they couldn't burn them, so they couldn't see the spaceships burning and crashing. However, they watched as the spaceships were destroyed by the energy cannons. They were very happy. Hit them! Hit them with everything you've got! Shoot down all of the invaders' spaceships! Wave after wave of cannons pierced through space, and Mingbu, who stood in the cabin, frowned. Energy cannons! They actually had energy cannons. Elder, these natives have energy cannons, and they're of good quality. Our 10 spaceships are suitable for interstellar travel, but their defenses are poor. They can't withstand the energy cannons' continuous bombardment. Mocha frowned as he reminded Mingbu. I know. In just 2 short minutes, Mingbu saw several spaceships disintegrate from the energy cannons. The crew members crawled out of their cabins. The disintegrated spaceships only took 3 shots at most. Some disintegrated in 1 shot. With this kind of defense, it was obvious that the quality of the metal used to forge the spaceships wasn't very high. Their defense systems weren't particularly good either. These spaceships were probably only used for interstellar travel. If it was an invasion, they probably couldn't even carry people. Why didn't you tell me in advance? Mingbu frowned as he watched the spaceships disintegrate. I did not expect them to have energy cannons. And didn't you say that they're just a bunch of natives? What, are you saying that all of this is my problem? I don't think so. Minabu squinted his eyes and shouted as he looked at Mocha, who was groveling in front of him. Inform the other spaceships to disperse. Why are you still staying in formation at this time? Are you afraid that they haven't had enough fun? Yes. I'll do it right away. Mocha hurriedly left the cabin. Mingbu couldn't help but let out a long sigh as she watched his outrageous back. This subordinate was much worse than his previous subordinate. It was a pity. His crew was trapped on Earth. After such a long time, he didn't even know if they were dead or alive. Of course, none of this was important. Most importantly, Mingbu did not expect that the natives of Earth would have energy cannons. Did the Master of the Galaxy leave it for them? If that was the case, the situation had become somewhat troublesome. If it was the energy cannon that the Master of the Galaxy had left for them, no one could be sure that the Master of the Galaxy had not left behind more destructive defensive weapons. For example, the Annihilation Cannon. Among the offensive and defensive weapons of the universe, it was the most ferocious weapon. 1 shot annihilated a planet. If they had this kind of weapon, they could just shoot at the fleet of spaceships, and the fleet of more than 1,000 spaceships would be reduced to ashes. Mingbu guessed that it was unlikely. If they really had such a weapon, they would have used it long ago. Why would they use these energy cannons? There was another important point. If they really had the treasure left behind by the Master of the Galaxy, why didn't they use it when he invaded? If they had used it, he wouldn't have been able to escape from Earth, and the natives of Earth did not chase after him, indicating that they were somewhat afraid of him. Why afraid? It was because they didn't have absolute strength and didn't have the so-called trump card. It was very likely that these energy cannons were purchased to protect themselves after his invasion failed. Mingbu felt that the probability of this was very high, because he saw that the energy cannons outside Earth were charged with the energy of the human race's universe. If it was really left behind by the Master of the Galaxy, with his financial resources, Mingbu didn't believe that there wouldn't be energy crystals left behind. Energy crystals could actually be made by anyone. It was to release the absorbed energy of the universe and store it in the crystal. That kind of thing was pretty cheap. It was more than 90% likely. They were the ones who bought the energy cannons. In order to buy enough energy cannons, they didn't have the extra money to buy energy crystals. As for where their cosmic dollars came from, it was most likely from the already dead Yi Zichen. However, what surprised Mingbu was, Yi Zichen was really rich. Buying 1,500 energy cannons was an astronomical figure. It was calculated at 10 million yuan per door. That was 15 billion cosmic dollars. Mingbu guessed boldly. Yi Zichen was the one who truly obtained the Master of the Galaxy's treasure, and the people in front of him were merely beneficiaries. However, it was also clear that the treasure left behind by the Master of the Galaxy was definitely unimaginably rich. Unfortunately, the person who inherited the Master of the Galaxy's treasure was already dead. He had died in the examination grounds. If he was still on Earth, Mingbu could capture him alive and obtain the wealth left behind by the Master of the Galaxy. What a pity! Mingbu couldn't help but sigh. At the same time, Mocha, who had already given his orders, returned to the cabin. "Elder, as you ordered. The spaceships have all scattered." "I see." The cabin was still transparent, so Mingbu could see what was going on outside. After the spaceships scattered, the energy cannons were no longer as effective as before. What's more, their spaceships excelled in speed. The first batch of spaceships that were destroyed were caught off guard. As long as they were on guard, it would be rather difficult for them to be hit again. "Elder, what should we do next? What is the purpose of us coming here?" Mingbu couldn't help but sigh when she heard Mocha's question. "To rule this life planet." "Yes." "Elder, are you still going to continue attacking?" Mocha couldn't help but glare. "Those natives outside have energy cannons." "So what? It's not like they have energy crystals." Mingbu twitched her mouth. Mingbu curled his lip. "Didn't you notice that their energy cannons were charged by humans? How many shots can they fire with the amount of cosmic energy humans provide? How long will it take for them to recharge after they run out of energy?" Just wait and pay attention to avoid the energy cannons. When they run out of energy, they will all disembark. Then, it will be our turn to attack." Chapter 2546. Fight! Hit it hard. The energy cannons fired from beyond Earth seemed to be venting the great sage's anger. From the moment the cannons started firing, he had never stopped waving the stick in his hand. They're pretty smart. They actually know to disperse. Seeing that the ships in the distance were no longer in a stable formation and had begun to scatter, the great sage sent a transmission to Yang Jian and the others. "I'm not a fool." Yang Jian could not help but roll his eyes. Anyone would know that if they continued to gather like that, they would definitely become live targets for the energy cannons. At first, he was caught off guard. There was a brief moment of panic. After stabilizing a little, they would make the decision to disperse. "I don't think they're that smart." The great sage pursed his lips and looked at the dispersing spaceships. "What a pity. It would have been better if we had gathered a little longer. That way we would have been able to shoot down more of their spaceship. This is going to be hard to deal with. After we split up, our hit rate has dropped significantly." His voice fell. The great sage raised his staff and looked at the master of the stars behind him. All of you, aim properly. The Star Lords bitterly smiled. They also wanted to aim. The size of these spaceships was not like those large spaceships or battleship. Not only were they small, they were also very agile. When they were fighting, they all aimed at the target. Even when the energy beams fell, the spaceships would dodge them. Don't make things difficult for them, said Su Lure. Hee, I was just joking with them. The great sage grinned. I've already taken down enough of them. Besides, I know that even if I do take down a spaceship, it'll be useless if I don't kill those invaders. Dispersing isn't good news for us. Yin Shang's long sigh rang out in everyone's mind again. He had been like this all this time, sighing and groaning, suffering and enmity. His tense emotions had never relaxed. It's all right, actually. Yang Jian shrugged. You don't know the data I calculated. Yin Shang exhaled. According to my original plan, it would be best if I could take down 300 of their spaceships in the first round of charging. It would be best if I could kill the invaders in the spaceships as well, but it's far from enough. He's too greedy. Su Lure couldn't help but ask when she heard Yin Shang's thoughts. I'm not being greedy. Sister Lure, let's think about it this way. If they really bring all their spaceships here, and we fight them head-on, how long do you think we can last with just a few thousand people? Yin Shang frowned. Everyone's heart sank when they heard this. If the invaders drove the spaceships in front of them, based on the number of invaders that crawled out of the disassembled spaceships, the number of invaders that crawled out of them would be extremely high. This group of invaders numbered around 20,000. There were only 3,000 of them here. In terms of numbers, they did not have the advantage. More importantly, they did not have the advantage in terms of strength. Yin Shang's way of thinking was not wrong. They would try their best to destroy as many spaceships as possible to buy time and reduce the gap in their numbers. This way, their subsequent missions would be much easier. But it has already come to this. Yang Jian frowned and said, if they want to disperse, we won't be able to stop them. Indeed. Yin Shang nodded. He immediately narrowed his eyes and clenched his teeth. So, I have a risky decision. Everyone turned to look at him when they heard this. Yin Shang followed suit and transmitted his voice. Our initial idea of charging the energy cannons is to exchange batches, right? Yang Jian and the others nodded. Once the energy cannons were fully charged, they could be used and released. When the energy was used up, they would need to recharge. With the energy cannons they had, to fully charge them would require all the cosmic energy of a cosmic system state. This meant that if the 1,500 energy cannons were fully charged, the 1,500 planetary lords would lose all their cosmic energy. At that time, they would need the next batch of planetary lords to replace them. At least one batch had to go to the back to recover. Our plan is to use up this batch of energy cannons and then attack the invaders. Then, we will wait for the other batch of cannons to finish charging and provide us with firepower. Everyone nodded. This was indeed their plan. I don't want to do this. Yin Shang looked at everyone. I think from now on, we will not release the energy cannons. Not using the energy cannons to stall for time? Yang Jian raised a brow. Yes. No need. Yin Shang gritted his teeth. I'm going to use the energy cannons to blast them to death. As soon as he finished speaking, Yin Shang quickly followed up. Think about it, our energy cannons still have 2 units of energy. This means that we can fire 4 more shots. Yin Shang pointed at the energy slot. 4 shots. In this situation, it's very hard to hit those ships. If we don't fire now, Mingbu and the others will definitely think that our energy cannons are empty and need to be recharged. I saw their ships. Most of them are manned ships. This means that if they want to invade, they will have to come down from their ships to fight us. If we attack, that's when they are most relaxed and not paying attention to the energy cannons. Suddenly fire. The ships were agile. Humans definitely didn't have the speed of ships. If they suddenly fired at that time, most of the invaders wouldn't be able to react in time. But if we do that, we will have to fight them for a longer period of time. The charging time of the energy cannons could be calculated. If they used the current time as an example, Mingbu and the others could roughly calculate the charging time. When the charging time was about to end, they would retreat back to their ship. On Earth's side, they would use the energy cannons to delay for a while and consume Mingbu and the others' energy. Yin Shang and the others could also use this time to recover their energy. When it was over, Mingbu and the others would disembark and both sides would engage in a second, third, and fourth confrontation. In other words, it was like a turn-based game. Both sides had the right to attack. However, according to Yin Shang's idea, they would be fighting Mingbu and the others in advance. After the energy cannons were fired, Mingbu and the others would know that Yin Shang and the others had stored energy. When the energy was empty, Yin Shang and the others would replenish their energy and Mingbu's attacks would become more ferocious. The time of the battle would be extended. Yin Shang and the others' energy consumption would be a huge problem. This is a good idea, but what if they were on guard when they disembarked? Yang Jian said hesitantly. That's why, my idea is a little risky. Yin Shang frowned as he looked at Yang Jian and the others. If we succeed, Mingbu and the others' energy will be greatly reduced. If it's like what Yang Jian said, that they were on guard in advance, we might all die here. I'm just telling you, the decision is up to you. What's there to be afraid of? Let's fight them. The great sage raised his staff. Let's do as Yin Shang says and use the energy cannons to blast them. Chapter 2547. After discussing with each other, everyone agreed with Yin Shang's decision. It sounded like Yin Shang's decision had too little room for error. If they failed, perhaps they would really die in battle, and the last 3 life planets in the Milky Way galaxy that had not been enslaved would also be doomed. There were too many possibilities for such a method. There would also be many unforeseen events along the way. But because of these unforeseen events, it was worth it for them to take the risk. Fail. What if they succeeded? 1,500 energy cannons fired 4 rounds, a total of 6,000 shots. Maybe if they were lucky, they could even wipe out the fat invaders. Fortune and misfortune lurked within fortune. They had nothing to lose. There was nothing to be afraid of. The worst that could happen was death. If they succeeded, then the Milky Way galaxy would have a breather, and they would have enough time to evacuate. It was impossible to stay here. The Tulip family's main force was right behind them. The only thing they could do was to evacuate. Moreover, even if they used the method that seemed normal at the beginning, it did not mean that they could hold on for 5 days. Taking an unconventional approach, perhaps there would be an unexpected surprise. Cease fire. Yin Shang raised his arm and transmitted his voice to the Star Masters around the energy cannons behind him. The Star Masters immediately gave up on releasing energy from the energy cannons. Get the laser guns! Beside the energy cannons, the Star Masters held the laser guns in their hands. At this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with determination. No one was not afraid of death. But they were not afraid to die. If they could save the home they lived on, if they could save the humans living on the life planet, if they could save their family and friends, die. I will go with all my might. Elder, their energy cannons have stopped. Mocha pointed at the position of Earth, and reminded as he watched the artillery fire disappear outside. Mingbu did not give the order immediately. He stood in the cabin, frowning at the energy cannons in the distance. How many cannons did they fire? Mingbu turned his head to ask. Mocha was stunned. He did not notice this at all. Seeing his expression, Mingbu could not help but sigh. In the end, the members of the family were just flowers and plants living in a greenhouse. They were still too immature. Elder, is there a problem? Mocha's eyes were filled with confusion. According to what you said, their energy should be depleted by now. It's time for us to attack. Are you sure you missed? Mingbu frowned. This. Emoka's face stiffened. Indeed, he could not confirm whether or not the energy in the energy cannon had been completely depleted. What we're about to face now is no longer just the rule of native planets. If they have energy cannons, this can be considered an invasion and defense battle of a life star. Mingbu patiently explained to Mocha. He had no choice but to do so. The subordinates who had once followed him were nowhere to be found. Now, he had the title of an elder, but there was no one under him that he could use. He had to cultivate his own strength again. In Mingbu's opinion, Mocha was not a good candidate. He had grown up in the Tulip family and was loyal to the Tulip family more than anything else. However, he was the only person he could use at the moment. Mingbu could not do everything by himself. Not only would he lose his status as an elder, but after getting used to the feeling of being in a high position, it would be difficult for him to settle down and do the most basic work. A planetary invasion battle is not as simple as you think. This native planet is also very cunning. Under normal circumstances, the energy cannon can fire about 20 shots after being fully charged. You should have calculated the energy consumption of the energy cannons the moment they fired the cannons. You also need to consider, if we leave the cabin now and the opponent suddenly fires the energy cannon at us, how are we going to avoid it? We are not spaceships, we do not have that kind of speed. Also, even if we can react in time, what if the people on Earth are all death warriors? If they stop our movements and use their own lives to exchange for ours, how are we going to deal with them? Have you thought about all of these? No matter how rotten Mingbu's current situation was, it was undeniable that he was indeed a qualified captain. After a long period of adventuring in the universe, caution had been imprinted in his bones. At that moment, what he had considered might not have been considered by many people, including the patriarch of the Tulip family. This was not about wisdom. It was all about his recent experiences. When a person's emotions were completely relaxed, it would be very difficult for him to be tense even after hundreds or thousands of years. Mingbu had been adventuring in the universe since he was at the star level. He had seen too much of the scheming and sinister people in the universe. Everything would be considered in the worst-case scenario. The final outcome would definitely not be too bad. This was the summary of his thousands of years of adventuring in the universe. Mocha stood at the side and silently listened to Mingbu's teachings. In his heart, he did not have any conflicting feelings. Instead, he listened and remembered very seriously. In his opinion, these were the most valuable experiences of Mingbu as an adventurer for thousands of years. Moreover, Mingbu's words, at least in his opinion, did not have any problems. He really did not think about these things. When Earth stopped firing, the first thing he thought about was to go down the cabin. After listening to Mingbu's words, he also deeply realized how dangerous his thoughts were just now. Elder, what should I do now? Seeing Mocha's attitude, Mingbu nodded in satisfaction. Although he was a rookie, at least he knew how to listen to the advice of his seniors and was willing to accept their words. Mingbu approved of this attitude. He was afraid of those who clearly knew nothing and would not listen to others' advice. With your knowledge, what do you think we should do? Mingbu raised his head and asked. Mocha hesitated for a moment, not daring to speak. After a long time, Mocha's eyes suddenly lit up. He took out a binocular-like observation tool. From the position of the spacecraft cabin, he could clearly see the situation of the energy cannon outside Earth. Not stupid. Seeing Mocha's behavior, Mingbu muttered in his heart. Confirm the color of the energy cannon. After charging, the energy cannon would emit light. This was a visual representation of the infusion of cosmic energy. When buying the energy cannon, it could also be used to determine whether the energy cannon could be used, as well as the condition of the cannon. About half a minute later, Mocha put down the binoculars in his hand. Elder, I can confirm that Earth's energy cannon has been completely emptied, Mocha said solemnly. Mingbu raised his head and looked at him. How can you be so sure? The energy cannon has lost its light. Their second batch of personnel is already preparing to recharge. Mocha replied. Good. Knowing this result, Mingbu was instantly delighted. Go and inform everyone to go down the cabin. Prepare to attack. Chapter 25:48. Without the suppression of the energy cannons, Mingbu and the rest had nothing to fear. Let me confirm again, the energy has indeed been depleted. Mingbu frowned and asked. Yes. Emoka's eyes were filled with determination. Give the order. Suspicion was a problem that all universe adventurers had. It was this kind of paranoia that ensured their survival in the universe. Mingbu's confirmation just now was to be at ease. He roughly estimated. Earth's energy cannon's first attack consumed less than 10% of their ship's energy. Less than 200 casualties. For the 20,000 men he had deployed on this trip, this kind of casualty was completely acceptable. From here, he could see the situation outside Earth. A few thousand guards. In terms of numbers, they had an overwhelming advantage. This battle, they would definitely win. The cabin doors opened. After receiving Mocha's order, all the cabin doors of the spaceship were opened. Countless vanguard troops of the Tulip family. Wearing a complete set of equipment, he looked at Earth not far away with bright eyes. Invasion. To them, this was their first time coming into contact with it. The human race had developed steadily for countless years. Occasionally, there would be some small conflicts on some life planets, but none of them happened around the Tulip family. This battle, the vanguard troops of the Tulip family were anxious. Just like what Mingbu had said. They were all plants living in a greenhouse. When the war started, being able to use 70% to 80% of their strength was already considered acceptable. Some had never killed anyone before. Facing the deaths of people around them, it would have a huge impact on their mentality. At that time, even 50% of their strength would be an extravagant hope. We still have to gain experience. In that instant, Mingbu had already seen the expressions of the vanguard troops of the Tulip family. Fortunately, Earth was an indigenous planet. Their overall strength was very weak. Even though the vanguard troops had no battle experience, their strength was still not bad. Even if they were affected by various factors, their strength would decrease. It shouldn't be too big of an impact. Elder. Emoka returned to Mingbu. Mingbu nodded at him, twisting his neck and pointing in the direction of the battlefield. Attack. Receiving Mingbu's transmission, the vanguard troops of the Tulip family moved out in full force. There were no pre-battle shouts at all. Perhaps they were all shouting with all their might, but their cheers to boost their morale could not be heard in outer space. What could be seen was a group of vigorous figures surging towards Earth. He's here. Yang Jian grabbed the Erling lance and frowned. Everyone in the surroundings couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when they saw the figure in the silver-white combat uniform with the flame tulip branded on his chest. Kill. Yin Shang stood in the middle and waved his hand. Instantly, Earth's master of the stars charged out one after another. The great sage and Yang Jian were at the very front, and in less than half a minute, they were already exchanging fire with the vanguard. Remind our people to be careful. There is an array master on Earth who is proficient in spiritual arrays. His array can increase the combat strength of our side. When the Tulip family turned out in full force, Mingbu did not rush to the front. Instead, she followed far behind the army. Caution! He was still worried that the Earth side would play some dirty tricks. He wanted to observe from the back for a period of time. After confirming that there were no problems, he would join the battle. Perhaps without his presence, the Tulip family's casualties would be more severe than expected, but how could the lives of those people be compared to his own safety? Elder, we already saw that array master, Mocha transmitted. He's in the area where we're fighting. There's an 8 trigrams, a formation diagram beneath our feet. Be careful. Mingbu frowned. He had suffered a great loss because of this formation diagram. He looked forward. In the void of outer space, there was an 8 trigrams diagram that covered an area of about 30,000 meters horizontally. Fortunately, the tulip family's vanguard was strong enough. With the 8 trigrams supporting Earth's master of the stars, they were not at a disadvantage. He subconsciously glanced in the direction of the energy cannons. Elder. Suddenly, Mocha's urgent voice sounded out in Mingbu's mind. Those natives have B9 grade laser guns. What? Mingbu's heart instantly skipped a beat. He looked forward and saw countless blinding lights flickering in the center of the battlefield. Just how much wealth did Yi Zichen leave behind for Earth? Laser guns. They're even equipped with laser guns. Mingbu clenched his teeth and clenched his fist, while an indescribable jealousy filled his heart. Native star system. Why do they have so many resources? Just because they were left behind by the master of the Milky Way? How are our family's casualties? Mingbu frowned. It's all right, Mocha replied. Our combat uniforms are all advanced combat uniforms. As long as we don't get shot in the head, we won't die. That's good. Mingbu let out a long sigh. He was afraid that the casualties would be too severe. Even though he was an elder of the family, it would be hard for him to answer to the clan head if more than half of the vanguard died. That's... Mocha hesitated. Speak. There are a few people on Earth who are truly too strong. They didn't use laser guns, and our people couldn't handle them. 2 universe-level and above experts have already died. How could this be? Mingbu was shocked. How many experts did Earth have? Mingbu guessed that those who fought with him before were all heavily injured, so they shouldn't have such fighting strength. He looked towards the center. Only then did he notice Yang Jian and the Great Sage, who were killing everyone in the battlefield. After all, they were all veterans who had gone through hundreds of battles. Regardless of whether it was his fighting skills or his impromptu response, the rookies of the Tulip family could not compare to him. Who are these two? Mingbu frowned. He hadn't seen them before. There are other experts on Earth? Elder, please hurry up and take action. If this continues, our casualties will be very serious. Mocha sent a voice transmission to Mingbu for help. Mingbu looked around with a frown. He really didn't want to join the battle right now. Who knew what else Earth was hiding? The situation that Mocha described was indeed extremely dangerous. Elder! Another universe-level expert has died. Mocha's voice exploded in Mingbu's mind. Hearing that, Mingbu no longer hesitated. He couldn't wait any longer. If he really waited any longer, there would be too many universe-level casualties. Even if he won, the Tulip family definitely wouldn't let him go. Chapter 2549. Outer Space. The battle did not stop. Laser guns were flashing everywhere. Relying on the slight advantage of equipment, the Tulip family's vanguard troops were unable to take advantage of the Star Lord for a short period of time. It wasn't that the laser gun was a rare weapon. The Tulip family's vanguard troops were dressed casually when they arrived. They had arrived at the Milky Way in the shortest time possible to contact Mingbu. As for the follow-up resources, equipment and weapons, they were all with the follow-up army. There was another important point. They had never thought that an indigenous planet like Earth could also have laser guns and energy cannon. Faced with the threat of laser guns, the movements of the invaders from the Tulip family were somewhat timid. As they were wearing combat suits, their heads did not have any protection. If their heads were hit by a laser gun, even a peak nebula would die instantly. Secondly, on the Earth side there were still 2 powerful experts. From start to finish they had not used laser guns. However, with their strength, the Tulip family had suffered heavy losses. If there were no experts capable of stopping them, the Tulip family's vanguard troop, they might even be destroyed by these 2. Still not coming? During this period, Yin Shang was a military advisor. He was not particularly good at fighting. He had a certain level of self-defense. More often than not, he was used to using the 8 trigrams to strengthen everyone. That was why when the battle began, he had stayed at the very back of the line. He had been paying attention to the overall strength of the Tulip family's vanguard troops and made some countermeasures according to the current situation. Great Sage Yang Jian. Yin Shang suddenly sent a telepathic message to the Great Sage Yang Jian, who was fighting fiercely in front of him. What is it? Yang Jian replied. Do you see the man standing at the back? Yin Shang was referring to Mingbu, who had yet to join the battle. From the start of the battle, he had been paying attention to Mingbu's movements. I see him. He is Mingbu. Yin Shang frowned. This time, the invasion was instigated by him. It's him. Yang Jian frowned and grabbed the lance in his hand. I'll go meet him. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Jian was about to fly in Mingbu's direction. However, there were too many members of the Tulip family on the way, and he could not easily find trouble with Mingbu. Don't go. Seeing that Yang Jian and the Great Sage were about to act rashly, Yin Shang hurriedly sent a telepathic message to stop them. Can you two not be so impulsive? It's all thanks to the two of you that Earth is able to resist the invasion of the invaders. If you leave the army now, what will happen to the Earth Star Lords? Also, even if the two of you find Mingbu, you might not be a match for him. If the invaders give up on their attack and turn around to encircle the two of you, if anything happens to the two of you, Earth will really be finished. F***CK. Yang Jian couldn't help but clench his fist. The lance in his hand seemed to be venting his anger as he smashed the head of the Cosmic System State member of the Tulip family. Mingbu was not far away, but they couldn't go and settle the score with him. The two of you are a deterrent to the invaders. As long as the two of you are still here, the invaders will be afraid of the slightest thing and will be able to buy precious time for the retreat of the human race. Yin Shang kept sending telepathic messages. Yang Jian took a deep breath. Are we just going to let Mingbu go? Impossible. Yin Shang's eyes narrowed into slits as he looked in Mingbu's direction. As long as he doesn't die, we won't be able to live in peace. If I let him go, I wouldn't have mentioned him to you, right? Yang Jian and the Great Sage rejoiced. It seemed Yin Shang had a way to deal with Mingbu. Do you still remember the energy we saved from the energy cannons? Yin Shang transmitted. Actually, I prepared this energy for Mingbu. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and fire. The Great Sage urged. How? Yin Shang frowned. If we fire now, we'll at most kill some rain. I said. I prepared this energy for Mingbu. Right now, he's indeed within the range of the energy cannons, but he can easily retreat to eat. We have to let him in. Just tell us what you need us to do. If he didn't need their help, Yin Shang wouldn't have sent them a transmission at a time like this and distracted them. Do you want us to lure him in? No need. Yin Shang shook his head. We'll just force him in. Huh? Yang Jian was stunned. This Mingbu is harder to deal with than I thought. He hasn't joined the battle yet because he suspects that we've stored energy from the energy cannons. War was a game and contest between hearts. Mingbu was suspicious of the energy cannon's energy reserves, and Yin Shang had guessed at his thoughts. He was about to adjust his plan. He's not coming. That's fine. We'll make sure he has no choice but to come in. From now on, the two of you will go all out. Don't worry about energy consumption. Use the shortest amount of time to kill as many of them as you can. Make Mingbu's heart ache when he sees you, and force him to join the battle to stop you too. When that time comes. The Great Sage and Yang Jian frowned. Yin Shang's decision just now was yet another crazy one. The most direct problem was, if Mingbu didn't care about his subordinates, even if they killed them all and he didn't come in, how would they deal with it? What's more, the Great Sage and Yang Jian didn't have enough cosmic energy for them to kill tens of thousands of galactic and universe-level invaders. Based on the number of people they just killed, a few thousand. Their cosmic energy would be exhausted. If Mingbu still didn't come in, then Earth would no longer have any high-end combat power to deter the invaders. The energy of the laser guns wouldn't last long either. When Earth ran out of food and ammunition, that would be the time for the invaders to truly attack. Monkey, are we doing it or not? After hesitating for a while, Yang Jian turned to look at the great sage and frowned. Why don't you conserve your strength, and I'll do it? Trust Yin Shang's decision. Unexpectedly, the great sage shook his head. His body was already beginning to emit dazzling light. He's the minister of the left, the prime minister and think tank of the entire Star Dynasty. His decision is worth the risk, isn't it? Monkey! Let's do as he says. In an instant, a turbulent aura was released from the great sage's body. A golden-red light surrounded him, and he turned to look at Yin Shang. Yin Shang, I'll leave everything to you. Chapter 2550. Energy was released. The great sage immediately went berserk, charging straight into the center of the Tulip family's territory. Monkey! Seeing that the great sage had already charged out, Yang Jian gritted his teeth. Gripping the lance in his hand, black light surged as he followed in. Wait a bit more. Mingbu was still standing outside. He was still waiting. He had to wait until he felt it was absolutely safe before joining the battle. What's more, even though a few universe-level warriors had died, to him it was still within an acceptable range. He could still observe for a while longer, after figuring out Earth's scheme, before making a decision. Elder Mingbu. At this time, Mocha's urgent voice resounded in Mingbu's mind. What is it now? Mingbu frowned. He wasn't happy with Mocha. He had always been the one to transmit his voice, causing Mingbu's heart to begin to feel uneasy. He didn't know if he should join the battle or stay safe and wait for the right time. Elder, Earth's aboriginals have gone mad. Mocha's voice was filled with fear. I don't know what's going on, they've suddenly stopped caring about the universe energy consumption, raising their battle power to the max, killing within our family. Our family has already lost over 1,000 people. How many? Mingbu's pupils constricted, looking into the distance. He saw the area behind the Tulip family, gold, red and black lights flashed constantly. Not caring about energy consumption, the great sage and Yang Jian were fighting at lightning speed, killing everyone behind the Tulip family. No one could stop them. In just this short period of time, Mingbu saw with his own eyes a dozen universe-level experts, either killed or heavily injured to the point of death. Do these people not want to live anymore? Mingbu gritted his teeth. With this type of battle, in less than 2 hours, their energy would definitely be depleted. At that time, Earth wouldn't have any warriors left. What were they doing? Fighting to the death? More importantly, how could Mingbu really let them kill here for 4 hours? With this efficiency, in 2 hours, at least 5,000 people from the Tulip family would die. This was already far beyond what he could accept. When the leader came, if he knew of this, he might even remove his elder position. Damn it! Damn Earth's natives! Are they using this method to force me to join the battle? Mingbu was actually very clear in his heart. They do this. This proved that they indeed had a trick waiting for him. Elder Mingbu, if we really can't do it, let's retreat. Mo Cha's voice sounded in Mingbu's mind. Retreat? How could they retreat with so many people dead? If he could conquer this life star, it meant he had harvested something. If they retreated, not only would they not reap any spoils of war, they would also lose so many of their clansmen. How was he going to explain this to his family? When this war broke out, Earth had no way out. They could only fight to the end to have any hope of survival. Little did he know that Mingbu was in the same situation. He had no way out either. He had to conquer Earth, the celestial planet, and the divine planet. Elder Bu, we really can't hold on any longer. F***ck. Mingbu could not help but spit. He subconsciously looked in the direction of the energy cannon. Mocha, I'll ask you one last time. Did the energy cannon really run out? Yes, Mocha said confidently. Good. From now on, you don't need to care about those two Earth's native. Focus on conquering Earth. Leave those two to me. Mingbu's heart hardened. He could no longer continue to observe. Although Earth might have a trick waiting for him, as long as it was not the energy cannon, Mingbu reckoned that there was nothing that could hurt him. He could not let those two natives go crazy no matter what. If this continued, even if he conquered the 3 life stars, he might not have a good ending when facing the patriarch of the Tulip family. Damn it! If I knew this, I should have waited for the people of the Tulip family to come and bite this bone. Mingbu could not stop cursing in his heart. Who would have thought that an indigenous planet could have energy cannons, laser guns, and such experts? Even if he reported the truth, if he told them about Earth's situation, with Heiyu there, he would definitely add fuel to the fire and accuse him of being greedy and rash, causing the Tulip family to suffer heavy losses. He was sure that Heiyu would definitely say that. Right now, his position as an elder in the family wasn't particularly stable. If he lost his position because of this, the losses would not make up for the gains. This could be considered a lesson for him. When dealing with any native star system, one had to treat them equally. One couldn't think of oneself as superior just because they were natives. Right now, he had suffered a great loss because of his arrogance. Elder, please hurry up. We really can't hold on much longer. Mocha couldn't help but urge him. Hearing this, Mingbu frowned and immediately charged towards the great sage and Yang Jian. He's coming. The moment Mingbu moved, the great sage and Yang Jian smiled and let out long sighs. He really came. They had been afraid that Mingbu would keep his cool and not join in the fight. After all, Mingbu had overestimated them just now. The great sage and Yang Jian's current energy could at most hold on for another hour. Natives, die. Mingbu gripped his warhammer and descended from the sky. The great sage and Yang Jian instinctively retreated several hundred meters, frowning as they looked at Mingbu. An expert. At the very least, he was definitely stronger than them. They really didn't know how Su Lu and the others had managed to repel him. He hadn't even dared attack for a long time. Yin Shang, the fish has taken the bait. Yang Jian narrowed his eyes and transmitted. I, who'd been waiting in the back, also spoke up. Follow the plan. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Jian and the great sage charged at Mingbu without a word. Mingbu gripped his warhammer, but before long, he realized that the two natives had put away their weapons as they approached. What on earth are they doing? Mingbu swung his warhammer. Yang Jian and the great sage paid no heed to that. They welcomed the warhammer head-on. What are you doing? His hands and feet were bound, but Mingbu's eyes flashed with panic. Then he saw the distant energy cannons suddenly flash with blinding light. This. Mingbu struggled with all his might, trying to escape. At that moment, Yin Shang's hand gently fell. Fire.